Today, we're going to be talking about some of the most legendary FNAF fan games that time almost forgot. These are games that once made a huge impact on the community, but have slowly faded from the spotlight over the years. Whether they inspired future fan games or simply left a lasting impression on everyone who played them, these titles deserve to be remembered, so let's get into it. As I continue to make videos talking about Five Nights at Freddy's games, as each week goes by, I grow more and more nervous that I will eventually run out of interesting games to talk about. Obviously, the next choice would be to start talking about random horror games until new FNAF titles are released. However, recently I found a FNAF fan game I have never heard of before, a game so interesting I couldn't help but get sucked right into it. The game we'll be talking about today is Night Watch at Freddy's, a FNAF fan game that pretends to be an official demo of the original Five Nights at Freddy's games, but is really hiding some incredibly dark secrets. Stick around because you're not going to want to miss out on this one. This is truly one of the most interesting FNAF games I will ever talk about on this channel. So sit back, relax, and join me today as we dive into the depraved world of Night Watch at Freddy's. Night Watch at Freddy's does not begin in the way a normal FNAF game typically begins. I've actually never seen any FNAF game start in the same way that Night Watch at Freddy's does. Upon pressing start, we're greeted to the night screen, where you can already see something interesting. You have the classic live system that was originally supposed to be in the first Five Nights at Freddy's. But let's pause for a second and back way the fuck up. Take a look at this title screen. Do you notice anything strange? Well, if you said that the creator of the game's name looks a bit weird, then you'd be correct. It says the creator's name is Scott Cawthorn, clearly an alternate version of Scott Cawthon. But that's not where it ends. Right next to the name, we can see the year 2014. Spoiler alert, this game was released in 2025. Let's cut to the chase of why I wanted to talk about this game, as clearly there's something weird going on. Night Watch at Freddy's explores an alternate timeline where the original Five Nights at Freddy's game took a significant turn from what we know them as today. Wow, I hear you say. That's a super interesting idea for a FNAF game. Tell me, who could come up with something as interesting as that? Well, the answer to that question is pretty damn cool. This game's lead director is Avocado Dreams, the same person who's responsible for Graveyard Shift at Freddy's and the remnants of Tubbyland, both of which I've covered on this channel, and you should definitely go check out those videos after this one. But for now, let's continue. Knowing that this game is supposed to be a demo for what the first official FNAF game was intended to be. Of course, since this is an alternate timeline of the official FNAF games, in this alternate universe, Scott actually did end up including the live system that was left out of the official games. And you'll notice plenty more details just like this. For example, there's actually a fake alternate version of the classic Scott Games website, Scott Productions. The team responsible for this game really went all out. This is one of the coolest experiences I've ever seen in my entire time working on FNAF stuff. Before we load into the office, we get to see a developer note talking about Night 1. Keep in mind, Night Watch at Freddy's is pretending to be a demo, so notes like these are pretty common. Welcome to Night Watch at Freddy's, or at least the prototype of it. Some things are still subject to change. For right now though, you can play through what's done of the game and get a feel for how it's going to end up. Night 1 begins, and we of course get a phone call from this game's phone guy. He gives the basic Night 1 spiel that we're all used to. However, he does mention how the breaker and power systems work. Of course, that's my job, so I'm going to be doing that instead. A few things you'll immediately notice about this game. The first, and in my opinion, biggest outlier is how the doors behave. You'll notice that they're already closed from the beginning of the night. You can open the doors and flash the hallways, and doing so increases your usage. Your light especially, but we'll talk about that more once we get into the characters. Moving on to your cameras, you'll notice another scrapped feature from the official games is present here, that being the original camera buttons, where they were originally intended to be circles that would project the direction they were actually facing in the building. Such a super small, cool detail, but if there's anything Avocado Dreams is good at, it's attention to detail. Only one animatronic is introduced on Night 1, that character being Bonnie. Of course, this is an alternative FNAF 1 after all, so keeping the overall order of the character introduction does make sense. Bonnie, as I'm sure you could have guessed, is pretty simple to deal with overall. Bonnie's goal is to get to your left door, exactly how he does in the original. However, the way you deal with him is different, and he also introduces a new mechanic in the form of points into the game. Once Bonnie reaches your left hallway, staring at him on the cameras will stall him. This will become integral once we start talking about another character that gets introduced. While you're stalling Bonnie, you will get 5 points around every 0.5 seconds. So the longer you watch him, the longer he doesn't move, and the more points you obtain. Something additional to note are your lives. If you are to lose all of them, you don't have to start all the way back on night 1. Instead, your points will just get reset to 0. On top of that, after every completed night, you will gain 1 life. Anyways, back to talking about Bonnie. Once Bonnie reaches your door, you have to open it and hold your light on him until he goes away, which will happen pretty quickly, thankfully, because as I've said before, the lights will absolutely ramp up your breaker stress. Once Bonnie leaves, you'll want to close the door again. Oh my god, oh my fucking god, oh my fucking god, it runs. My chest, dude. Oh my god, don't do that ever again. Ding. No thanks. This mechanic does bring up an interesting and pretty scary point. The doors are closed by default, and if you don't open the door and flash Bonnie when he is there, he will jump scare you. So that brings up the terrifying realization. Bonnie is strong enough to open the door if he really wanted to. Put yourself in the shoes of the night god for a second. If that doesn't scare the absolute piss and shit out of you, I don't know what will. But aside from that, that's all Bonnie does. Something additional I do want to point out about Bonnie is how fucked up and gross he looks. Why are his ears down like that? Tell me that's not disgusting. Dogs put their ears down when they know they did something bad, and cats put their ears down when they're about to do something bad. So what the hell does a bunny with its ears down mean? That I'm about to get back shots? Probably, and I don't want that. Nice job getting past the first night. Still wondering what I should do with that raccoon. If anyone has any ideas, please let me know. Night 2's phone call just explains one of the new characters. Additionally, Phone Guy says he's going to drop the script the company wants him to read and instead just tell some stories during the phone calls, which he doesn't end up doing this time around. However, towards the end of the call, his dog runs into a fucking door like a moron, and then he ends the call to go take it for a walk. I think that's supposed to be a hint for one of the characters this night introduces, because I have no idea what else that could be. Like the official FNAF 1, Night 2 introduces 2 new threats, Foxy and Chica. Let's go over Chica first, since she's pretty much just Bonnie with a small difference. She will do the same thing that Bonnie does, except she'll go to the right door instead. Same thing goes. Staring at her in the right hall will stall her, and while you stall her, you'll gain points. However, the difference with Chica is how you deal with her once she reaches your door. You still have to open it, but instead of holding the light on her, you have to flash your light at her. Now, come in real close and let me give you a little tip about clicking on things in almost any Click Team Fusion game. The way Click Team seems to register clicks can be delayed depending on your mouse position. I actually first noticed this during my playthrough of Tycoon Sons Lumber Co. a few months ago. If you keep your mouse stationary and click on something really fast, Click Team will not register every click you make. However, if you click, move your mouse slightly really fast, and then click again, then it will register every click. This is exactly how you can get Chica to go away really fast. If you jitter click your mouse and whip around the cursor in a small enough area over the lever, you will flash the light really fast, making Chica leave faster. Fun fact, you can also use this clicking method to ring the bell on your desk really fast and make your grandma's tinnitus act up. But you didn't hear that from me. The other character this night introduces is Foxy, who for some reason is gender swapped in this game. Not really sure on that decision. Maybe Foxy was going to be a girl in the official games, but Scott changed it, and this game is drawing from that. Or who knows, maybe Avocado Dreams just wanted a female Foxy. Either way, it's not really important. Foxy almost works the same way she does in the original. She still has multiple phases she will go through before charging at your office. However, I'm unsure if being on the camera stalls her this time around. After she gets to her final phase and disappears to charge at your office, you'll have to check Pirate's Cove and look at her sign to see which door she's charging at, since, yes, she can attack both. Once you know which door she's going to attack, all you have to do is open that door and wait for her to arrive. She'll lean in and yell at you before running back to her cove. From there, you can just close the door and easy peasy lemon dick, she's been dealt with. Keeping this one short since I haven't really been feeling the best lately. The more I work on this project, the more I feel like it's not aligning with what I've learned over the years. The overall themes are just... I guess it's just something I'll have to get used to. Hopefully it won't impact development too much. Also, I keep getting questions on how to deal with the golden Freddy. The statue in the entrance doesn't move. There's not even any coding for it to move. I don't understand what you all are talking about. Night 3's phone call is an interesting one. It begins with the phone guy telling us about his dog running into the door. Idiot ass dog. Cats are way better anyways. He starts talking about the new character, a puppet, and about how it really creeps him out. You can tell by the sound in his voice that he really doesn't like this thing.
Dog. It freaks me out.
He explains how to deal with it and abruptly ends the call by yelling at us to not let it out of our sight. So, as I'm sure you could have guessed, the new threat on this night is the puppet, which I'm sure you already knew was not in the original FNAF 1. So, how is this character going to work? Well, it's probably one of the most nerve-wracking, stressful, and anxiety-inducing characters in the entire game. Occasionally, you will hear a sound cue, one that I can't really describe with words. It's really weird. Anyways, when you hear it, the puppet will appear on one of 4 cameras at the bottom of the map at random. It will either be in the bathroom, the show stage, the party room, or the kitchen. You will have to find which 4 of these cameras it's on and hold the stop button like a music box to make it go away. If you don't do this in time, the puppet is going to plow on that pussy. Jesus Christ, what is wrong with me, bro? Oh my God. Put me in a fucking cage, dude. Overall, it doesn't add anything too crazy to the mix so far. Your strategy at this point should be watching Foxy and the 2 halls, staring at Bonnie or Chica to desync the 2 from attacking at the same time, and whenever you hear the sound cue, go deal with the puppet. Overall, not too bad, but night 4 is when things really start to ramp up. This is getting a bit crazy. I thought adding more depth would increase the replayability, but it's honestly overwhelming. Maybe I'll just change it so Freddy only appears during the power outage, but that might be a bit lame. Time will tell, I guess. I'm worried that having so many different things to do might be too much. Also, added the ability to ring the bell on the desk. Thank Lane for that idea. Night 4's phone call gets pretty serious. The phone guy explains that the animatronics are not acting right at all, going places they shouldn't be going, snapping their jaws shut, which they shouldn't even be programmed to do. He mentions Freddy specifically, and how one time before showtime, they found him in the garage of the building, staring at the main power breaker. So yeah, that sounds like Bad News Bears. Get it? Bears? Like Freddy because he's yeah, you get it. Night 4 introduces this game's final threat. Obviously, it's Freddy. And Freddy ties this game's loop together by single-handedly being the most stressful character in the entire game and making every other character feel 10 times more stressful than they already were. Just like the puppet, Freddy will occasionally laugh. When he does, that signifies that he has moved cameras. Freddy can move between only 5 cameras, and getting to your office is not a concern of his. When he moves off the show stage, he will either go to the bathrooms, the party room, the back room, or the kitchen. If at any point you hear him move and you can't find him on any 4 of those cameras, then that means he's moved to the garage. The garage camera, of course, has no video feed. So the only way to know for sure if Freddy is in there is by checking the 4 other possible cameras he can be in. When you know he's in the garage, you will be able to use the garage's camera scanner. The scanner will then shock the absolute living shit out of him and make him piss off. If you don't shock him fast enough, he will punch the shit out of your breaker and you will completely lose power. So there you go. There is every single character at the same time. Can you see how stressful this could be? Having to constantly watch Foxy, having to balance stalling Bonnie and Chica, balancing your power usage and your camera usage and the power aids that will happen when you use your lights, and on top of that, having 2 characters that will require you to, at random, play a stupid fucking find them on the camera mechanic game, while having one of those bullshit characters also mixing in a small music box mechanic at the same time. Does that sound a little bit overwhelming? If you said yes, that's because it kind of is. But in all honesty, I love this gameplay loop. Sure, I'm not a fan of the find them on the camera mechanics at all, But somehow, this game manages to make every single action you do feel satisfying. It's really hard to put into words, and I would highly recommend you check this game out for yourself. Or ideally, watch my full playthrough over on my second channel, Dexter Black. Link in the description. Nothing really to mention here. I'm just so unsure of everything revolving around this project right now. The ideas are definitely there. I'm proud of the models, the atmospheres in place, but something still feels so off. I'm really unsure if people will enjoy this, especially with how grim the story is. When I explained the story to my mom, she went pale and just asked me, "What are you thinking?" Just a few weeks ago, I'd have had the answer. Now I'm not so sure. Is this really something anyone would want? Would a story like this really be part of his plan for me? I don't know. I guess it just really goes to show I'm out of my depth completely. There's one more thing I want to try. There's only one way to find out if I'll be satisfied with it though. Night 5 introduces nothing new, just being a harder version of Night 4. But it's clear from the developer notes that the dev is really starting to doubt themselves. And trust me, the phone guy is having a mental breakdown as well.
Hey, glad to hear that you're alright. I was worried since, you see, there's sort of something I've been wanting to tell you. It's kinda... Okay, no, I can't do this anymore, dude. Everything's gone wrong, and I think I know why. On your first night, I told you about a birthday party that went bad way back, yeah? I was keeping quiet on the details. It's a sensitive subject around here, but during the party, the animatronics started going crazy. Kind of like they've been recently, and before anyone knew what happened, the power went out. Kids were screaming, parents were running around, and we were doing everything we could to get the lights back on. But by the time we did, the birthday boy was gone. And we couldn't find him anywhere, and no power meant no cameras, so we didn't have any leads. Not until our night guard didn't clock in for a shift. He hadn't missed a single shift before then, and he would have known exactly how the camera systems worked, so people filled in the blanks. Started a manhunt. Management tried to forget the whole thing, but the town sure didn't. And now it's looking like it's only gonna get worse. I swear I'm seeing things that aren't there, hearing sounds on the walls, and that puppet thing keeps vanishing. I don't know why the animatronics are moving, but all of this, there's only one explanation I could think of. That kid's still here, like his ghost or something. I think it's responsible for everything that's happened since then. And deep down, maybe you're thinking the same thing. That's the only reason I can think of for why you keep coming back. Maybe you know something I don't, but here's the facts, man. This place isn't safe anymore. I'm taking my last paycheck and getting out of here. I'd suggest you do the same, but it seems you're pretty dead set on whatever it is you're trying to do. But I'm sorry I wasn't completely honest with you. No one else believed me, and look, I can't do much to make it up to you, but I know this place that serves some good drinks, and the food's pretty great. Had no animatronics either. Just, give me a call tomorrow if you're up for it. My treat, man. It's the least I could do. Good luck.
After completing Night 5, we get our paycheck as usual. But of course, if you've ever seen any FNAF game in your entire life before, then you'd know we're not quite done yet. Going back to the title screen, we'll see we've unlocked the Overtime Night. And surprisingly, it is not just a harder version of Night 5. Overtime Night starts with a phone call, not from the phone guy we've been hearing so far. If you remember, he said he was quitting, and exactly that he did. The phone call we get tonight is from a woman, talking about how employees have been spreading rumors about the animatronics and monsters, all of which we know is true. She says that all the employees who have been spreading these rumors will be docked pay, which I'm no expert, but I'm pretty sure that's illegal. And with that, Overtime Night begins. Let's just start by getting one thing out of the way. This night is stressful. However, it's really fun. The entire game is really fun. When I first heard this game was made by Avocado Dreams, I was really scared it was going to be incredibly fucking hard like Graveyard Shift and Remnants of Tubbyland. But to my surprise, while yes, this game definitely isn't easy, there is very little RNG that is overwhelming. and I was actually able to complete this night. Overtime Night introduces one final threat, which this game calls Jailbird. Jailbird is not at all a hard threat to deal with. I feel like she serves more as a nuisance character that you need to spend time on more than a threat that will actually get you killed. Editor, don't you dare think about playing the clip where I died to her. You know full well I died there because I didn't fully understand how she worked yet. Don't even start with me, Buster. You're on thin ice, bitch! Ooh! Ooh! What the fuck was that thing? Whoa! Whoa! What the hell was that thing? Jailbird will wander around your cameras in an attempt to get to your garage. When she gets to the garage, she'll start to open the garage's door. When it opens, she will, for some reason, be at the front door to your office, which up until this point has never been used. If you take a look at the map, I'm not entirely sure how her opening up the garage door makes her end up here. That doesn't make much sense to me, and is why I didn't fully understand her at first. Editor, piece of shit! When you know she's behind that door, you will have to quickly spam open and close your camera. This will make her slowly emerge from behind the door and eventually leave your office. How does this make sense whatsoever? I have no idea. Don't question it. Boss character, hooray, hooray, weird shit. This night is very fast-paced, but because of the way all of the mechanics in this game work together, it serves to be an incredibly satisfying and enjoyable night overall. The difficulty is definitely high, but it is in no way overwhelming like some of Avocado Dream's other games, which I, as someone who is dog shit at FNAF games, can really appreciate. Of course, you also have your custom night, but on top of that, after beating Overtime, you get access to Aggressive Mode, an optional setting you can use to play through the entire game again with all of the characters having movement opportunities more often. I, for obvious reasons, did not try to complete this mode. However, I know there are some people crazy enough to complete it, and I congratulate all of you who were able to, because watching playthroughs of Aggressive Mode is actually insane. And of course, it wouldn't be a FNAF game without some secrets and Easter eggs, so we might as well cover those as well, right? The first Easter egg is a Golden Freddy Easter egg. I'm not totally sure how it's pulled off, but just taking a look at the video I found, it seems like you need to flip your camera up and down a few times, then sit on the show stage camera. Golden Freddy should start reciting a Bible verse. Interestingly enough, the Bible verse he's saying is about Hebrews who created a golden calf to worship right before they were freed by God, Exodus 32:31. Afterwards, when you pull the camera down, you'll get this jump scare. In one of the earlier dev notes, the developer mentions a raccoon character that they didn't know what to do with. So during my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dexter Black, I thought the final character in the Overtime night was going to be this raccoon, but obviously I was wrong. However, there is a chance you can find these renders of him throughout the game. But as far as I'm aware, that's all Night Watch at Freddy's has to offer. I'm pretty confident that we will be getting more games in this series, since it seems the developers' dive into turmoil is only just beginning. And you better believe I'll be around when and if those sequels or prequels come out. Overall, I think Night Watch at Freddy's has become my favorite Avocado Dreams fan project. And no, that's not just because it was the only one I've been able to beat. I think the idea for the story is incredibly unique. The character designs are great, the game mechanics are literally amazing, and every character works together so well. And of course, it doesn't rely too much on RNG. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think this is easily the worst fan game Avocado Dreams has ever worked on? 2025 has been a crazy year for Five Nights at Freddy's fan games so far. We've had incredible titles such as Banshee, Five Nights at Frederick's, and Freddy's Reanimated. It's honestly incredible to see how much this community is thriving after 11 years of the original game's release. Somehow, people are still able to take the original concept and add new and unique experiences to it, and are somehow able to retell the same story in a way that's interesting every single time. It really goes to show just how much love this community has for the original source material. Today, we're going to be looking at one of the newest FNAF fan games to release, one that has built up a lot of hype and certainly lived up to it, with mechanics so unique that I've never seen before. So join me today as we dive into the twisted world of Locked at Freddy's. Locked at Freddy's begins with an opening cutscene. We introduce ourselves as Elliot Woods, and we begin to tell the story of the most terrorizing night of our entire lives, starting with us taking a job offer at Freddy Fazbear's as a security job. When we pull up to the building, we notice a purple car parked outside. Thinking nothing of it, we walk inside the building and get knocked out by a man in a bunny suit. Wake up. Oh shit! So this is about to be cool. Oh, what the fuck? What the fuck? We wake up inside of a Springlock suit. By completing a quick time-based minigame, we escape certain death, only to realize the real amount of trouble we're actually in. The man who attacked us, presumably William Afton, begins talking to us through the intercom system. He tells us what we're in, and that if we can survive until 6 a.m., we might get, quote, something special. I'm hoping it's that rabbit deer. Oh, Jesus Christ. And with that, the night begins. Something we need to immediately get out of the way is that this game, technically speaking, only has one night. However, the way a normal FNAF game would call a night, Locked at Freddy's calls an hour. So each hour of the night basically acts as its own night. I made that sound way more complicated than it actually is, but who cares? Let's start by talking about the main mechanic that you're going to be aware of, that being the Springlock suit attached to your bones. Whenever you move in this game, that meaning looking from side to side, a small indicator bar in the bottom left corner will detect your movement. If it fills up all the way to the top, you will die. At first, I thought this was going to be the most devastating mechanic ever introduced into any FNAF game ever. However, during my playthrough, I figured out how it actually works. This bar increases based on how much X-axis movement your mouse has. So if you slowly turn from one side of the office to another, it will increase very quickly. However, if you were to say, whip your mouse to one side of the screen really fast so that the screen has to catch up to your mouse's position, since you didn't move your mouse for very long, the bar will not increase very much at all. So this is definitely the route to go. Two more interesting mechanics that go along with the Springlock suit. First, when you open the camera, the bar will pause wherever it's at. This means if your bar is halfway increased and you open the camera, even though your player isn't moving, the bar will not decrease like it usually does when you're not moving. And only once you pull the camera down will it begin to decrease. The final, pretty poopy mechanic the Springlock suit brings takes place when you interact with the doors. The doors in this game work the same as the doors in FNAF 4. That being, you have to manually hold them closed. There is also a big lever next to the door you can pull to shine a light in the hall. Now, this final amazing and not ass-clenching mechanic has everything to do with interacting with these two very important pieces of the game. If you interact with either the light lever or the door itself whilst your movement bar is yellow, you will be entered into the Springlock minigame from the beginning of the game, and if you fail it, you lose. Now, completing this minigame isn't difficult. What's so annoying about having to do it is knowing that if you're needing to close the door, you probably don't have time to sit and do a minigame. Is this mechanic cool? Yes, I think it is, but that doesn't stop it from making me want to ride a bike with no seat. Now, with that out of the way, we can actually talk about the first threat this game introduces. Bonnie. What? Oh god, oh god. Why is he wearing a hat? Who gave him the fucking hat? Oh my god, look at how fast that power goes down. Of course, he's probably the most basic character of the roster, but that's typically how he is, and that's just how we like him. I'm kind of breathable a little bit. Oh my god, dude, what's wrong with me? Bonnie will quietly make his way to your left door, and let me be clear, him not making noise is a big deal, as sound cues are going to be very important throughout this game. Once Bonnie reaches your door, all you have to do is hold it closed. You will hear him bang on the door and then start breathing really hard like your mom does when she walks up a flight of stairs at a below reasonable pace. Once he starts breathing, you're free to let go of the door. However, if you ever turn the light on while he's at the door breathing, you will get eviscerated. After completing 12 a.m., 1 a.m. will begin, because that's how time works. Insane that I have to explain this to you. During the chat with William, he explains how we're the second person to be in this game. When asked who the first is, William responds that his name was Michael, and that he's currently in the back room stuffed inside of a suit. Some of the most brutal stuff, let me tell you. But before we can ask any more questions, he tells us that someone new is activating and the hour really begins. This hour introduces Chica, who does not act the same as Bonnie in the slightest, which is honestly really nice to see. Chica, of course, attacks your right door, except she actually is much more aggressive. Much more of a dom, which I would usually be chill with, except unfortunately for me, this is the ugly Chica, not bad bitch toy Chica. Once Chica gets to your door, unlike Bonnie, she is actually kind enough to leave us a sound cue. When you hear it, you will need to hold the door closed. She will then start pounding on it like your mom pounds down Twinkies. Whenever you hear the pounding stop, you must quickly open the cameras and use the alarm button I haven't mentioned so far. When you use the alarm button, an alarm will play. Who would have thought? And it will go off for 10 seconds. Use this once Chica stops banging to scare her away from your office. It doesn't matter which camera you use it on either, so that's really fortunate for us, the player. This game will eventually become pretty intense, and that will become more apparent once you notice how different each character really is. During the next phone call, William tells us the story of the children, how he murdered all 5 of them and placed their bodies into the suits so that the police wouldn't find them, explaining that the company shut down because of this and that he got away with it. He mentioned that there was still one single thing that could put a wrench in his plans, but he says he locked her in a box. I want you to keep this line in mind, as it will become very important later. For now, we have to talk about a new threat. This new threat is Foxy, a character I honestly thought was going to be a whole lot worse than he actually was. Foxy does exactly what you think he does. He has multiple stages he will move through in Pirate's Cove before charging at your door. This time around, however, he can attack either side, needing you to rely on sound cues to figure out which side he'll try to hit. Once you know which side he's on, all you have to do is hold the door closed. When you hear him bang on it, quickly turn the light on to scare him away from the door and he'll run back to Pirate's Cove like a little piss baby. Something really good to note about Foxy is that he really doesn't demand your attention at all, and that was a surprise to me. Unlike in FNAF 1, where watching Foxy on the camera stalls him, he will move at the same rate whether you're looking at him or not in this game. So all you really have to do is listen out for his sound cue and you'll be well in the clear. Just hope he doesn't attack when Bonnie is breathing, because if he does, then say goodbye to your anus because you're not getting it back. During the hour 4 phone call, Elliot calls William out for being an idiot, because what does killing 5 kids do for anyone? William turns into a piss baby and pulls some pain levels of, "You don't know the kind of pain I've been through," emo antagonist. William says he lost everything, and that the most important thing in his life got taken away. Knowing the FNAF lore, he's probably referring to his daughter. When Elliot asks how killing children fixes that, William deflects and the hour begins. Freddy is the next threat introduced. Freddy, of course, has to introduce my least favorite mechanic of all time. Occasionally, throughout the night, Freddy will laugh as loud as he possibly can like the asshole at the movie theater. When he does, do you want to take a wild stab at what you have to do? If you said find him on the fucking cameras, you'd be right, god damn it! Once you find Freddy on the cameras, you will have to play the alarm on whichever camera he is at, which will make him leave. But of course, as I'm sure you could have guessed, this does bring up another issue. Now we have 2 characters that make use of the same mechanic, and this mechanic has a very long 10-second cooldown. So let's imagine a sick and twisted scenario where Freddy does a little giggle. Okay, it's time to go look for him. So you do exactly that. Just then, the moment you press the alarm button, Chica starts blowing up your door's asshole like the 4th of July. Well, shit. Let's hope Chica takes a long time to start pounding on my glass, because otherwise she's gonna start pounding on my ass. Luckily for us, however, it does appear this was thought about while the game was being designed, because after Chica finishes pounding on your door, she usually won't start pounding on your window for a couple seconds. And in all honesty, there's nothing more satisfying in this game than using the alarm to take care of Freddy and Chica at the same time. Two birds, one stone type shit. The 4 a.m. phone call has William turn into the Joker, talking about a brand new toy he's created in the workshop. Says he made it specifically for occasions like this. What could he be talking about, I hear you ask? Great question, dear, honest, innocent and defenseless, viewer? Allow me to answer that burning question for you. Going into the workshop where you can find the corpse of Michael, Chip will jump onto the camera. Literally, this motherfucker got hops. Kind of like your mom in the drive-thru of Taco Bell. Seriously, you tell her, vamos a Taco Bell y pidamos todo, and she starts hopping. You want to take a solid guess as to what this guy introduces? If you said my second least favorite mechanic, ding ding ding, you'd be exactly right. Chip introduces a music box mechanic. If you're not winding it throughout the night, he'll insert his entire forearm inside of you. But Chip is an animal, and I know a lot of you guys are furries, so you might actually enjoy that. Freaks. You're all freaks. Freaks! During the hour 5 chat, we call William a bitch. We tell him he's hiding from us. And when we say that, he gets an idea that we're not going to be a huge fan of. Nothing new is added during this hour, except I just lied straight to your face. Within the first minute of the hour, you can hear a car pulling up outside of the building, and William himself enters. What the fuck was that horn? This is car I'm hearing. Is he here? He's already here. The yellow rabbit can come from any side. Close the door and wait for it to leave. Every knock the door affects the spring locks. If you hear the sound of the wind-up toy, prepare for an attack. What? That's right. The final threat introduced is William himself in the spring lock costume, who, spoiler alert, is the guy that knocked us out at the beginning of the game. I know, crazy, hard to believe, right? So let's ask ourselves, is his mechanic going to be fun? Well, it's actually pretty unmemorable, honestly. William will make his way to either one of your doors at random. When he arrives, he will make a sound cue to let you know he's there. How kind! Once he's at your door, all you have to do is hold it closed and he'll give it that Chica treatment, pounding on it by slapping it with his big fat stupid balls. However, something a little bit different from Chica is that his big fat stupid balls are so powerful that they will actually cause your spring lock meter to increase every time he bangs on the door. And while sure, that may sound cool, but due to the fact that you won't be moving your mouse during this because it's sitting on the door holding it closed, it really only serves to look cool and make William feel intimidating way more than it serves to actually be a mechanic. But that's about it. Beat this night and you're home free. Oh wait, shit. William, what are you doing here? Hey, buddy, stay back. You stink like shit. Hey, don't you take one more step. Hey, don't you do it.
Now, you'll be trapped here forever. Bye, Elliot. Rest here in the darkness.
What the fuck? So yeah, we got killed by William even though we won, and were stuffed into the Chip suit, which is clearly what he meant when he said he made Chip specifically for situations like this. Soon after, we're given the message, you can fix everything, find castle, with a crayon drawing of a castle shown. This is honestly really appreciated. I personally have no problem with the true ending of a game being a little out of the way, as long as it doesn't require me to repeat a massive section of the game, if not the entire game all over again. Secret of the fucking mimic! So this game actually giving us a massive hint on how to find it is actually really refreshing. Going back to 5 AM, if you go to camera 5 and click on the castle drawing, you will be thrown into a night minigame. And now I get to talk about it because this minigame was actually pretty fun. Upon loading into the minigame, you will learn the two most important mechanics, attacking and not attacking. Whenever you attack, you will swing a little lance. And whenever you don't attack and are moving, your curse meter will go up. If your curse meter increases too high, it will turn yellow and you won't be able to attack. Does this remind you of something? Because it should, as it's literally a metaphor as to what we're going through. We are in a suit, but instead of it being armor, it's a spring lock. Whenever we move, our danger increases and prevents us from using our only means of defense. And spoiler alert, the rest of this minigame is a metaphor as well. Very early on, we walk past a big purple locked door. Obviously, we'll have to come back to this eventually, so keep it in mind. Continuing to travel, we enter a room with our first boss battle. Being unable to fight this one, it's completely about not being seen. Hide behind pillars as he passes so that we aren't noticed. At the end of the hall, we see a child locked inside of a cage, and it's our job to free them. We see it's locked via a code, and we have to count the numbers of each colored balloon to get it. Don't question it. It's a FNAF game. It's weird. It's dumb. Whatever. Just move on. Afterwards, getting the key to the cage and freeing the child. This obviously being a metaphor for saving one of the missing children. The next boss we face is a bit more difficult. Brute. He has a shield and we can only strike when it's down. This weird, sad-looking bunny cloud above our head will occasionally take a piss and we have to dodge the stream. Meanwhile, hentai tentacles will occasionally come up from the ground. Dodging these is actually kind of difficult as the way they move is completely random, so this fight was a bit frustrating. After beating Brute, we get another key and save another kid. We continue to explore, finding a massive furnace. You should know by now, if you're familiar with my channel, that pretty much nothing is an accident, so you know this will almost certainly be important later. The next boss we face is the Mechanism. He slides across the ceiling and will shoot homing missiles at you, all the while whipping a laser around that you have to dodge as well. Honestly, this fight looks a lot more intimidating than it actually is. After beating him, bingo was his name-o, another key drops. The final boss we go up against is the Executioner. This guy has got a massive axe, or a hammer, I can't really tell. When he slams it on the ground, it leaves a shockwave behind that you have to dodge. The Piss Goblin is back up in the sky, and the hentai tentacles make a return as well. Honestly, this is probably the easiest of the boss fights. It just takes the longest because this guy has a lot of health. After beating him, he drops the final key and we can leave. However, I would highly recommend you don't leave because if you want to get the true ending, we have something else to do. If you take all of the keys we've collected so far and take them back to the furnace, you can melt them together into a single purple key. Then, using this key, you can go all the way back to the start where the purple door was, and now you can unlock it because that's how a door and a key work. Heading inside, we find a box, the same box William mentioned putting her inside of. The box opens and the marionette reveals herself. She thanks us for setting her free and says that it's now her job to set us free. We need to survive until 6 a.m. Now, if we complete night 6 one more time, near the end of the night, the marionette will appear in our office and we get one last cutscene. The marionette takes off our suit and we go to take revenge on William once and for all. Hello! Don't be afraid of me. I will save you. Whoa, whoa, bitch. I took off your suit. You are free. We will take revenge on him. Oh. A secret room. What the heck, bro? Oh shit! Oh. A word? Oh, word. Oh shit, where'd he just go to? All alone in the darkness. Oh, hello. Oh yeah, I'd be fucking shitting myself, bro. We are already here. We are waiting for you. Oh shit. Whoa, what the hell? Oh damn. Oh damn. Dude, yuck. Oh shit, what the fuck? It's time to end this. A tag bucket of FNAF assemble type shit. Oh, it's spring locks. Oh my god. Oh shit. Oh shit, it's spring locks. They're locking up, bro. Oh. Oh shit. There he goes. Holy fuck. Oh damn. What the fuck? Hell yeah, shut his ass down, bro. Now you will be locked here. Forever. What the fuck? And there we have it. An ending where we survive and all the kids can finally rest. Locked at Freddy's tells its story in a way that feels like a personal confession. A night one man survived and isn't entirely sure how. The whole thing is framed around Elliot Woods, a guy who moved to Hurricane and took the first job he could find because he needed money. And unfortunately for him, that job happened to be at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, which is already a red flag in this universe. But the important detail here, something a lot of players miss, is that Elliot never actually becomes a night guard. He never makes it to the office. He never even starts his job. He's attacked the moment he walks inside. A man in a rabbit suit, clearly William Afton, kidnaps him, drags him off screen, and forces him into a springlock suit. Not a costume, not a mascot, a torture device. You're waking up inside a machine built to kill you if you breathe wrong. And that's where the story really begins. Not as an employee, but as a victim William chose for reasons we don't fully know. And for the entire game, William is basically treating this situation like a twisted interview. He's watching Elliot, studying him, testing how long a person can last when trapped inside a springlock coffin. The animatronics aren't really the point. They're just environmental hazards William unleashes to make the test harder. He talks to you through an intercom all night, and this is where we get the real story. William admits everything. He killed 5 children, he hid the bodies in the suits, he shut down the location, and he never got caught. But the part that actually matters, the part Locked at Freddy's is built around, is the one thing that did scare him: the marionette. He says there was one single thing that could ruin all of his plans, something strong enough to fight back, and he said he'd locked her in a box. That's the core conflict of this game. The night isn't just William tormenting Elliot, it's William making sure the marionette stays powerless. Every time he talks, you can hear how confident he is. He's got Elliot trapped. He's killed before, and he thinks this is all going according to plan. But something changes as the night progresses. When Elliot pushes back, asks why murdering children fixes anything, William actually loses composure. He starts ranting about loss and how he had something important taken from him. There's a reason people compare this game's version of William to Saw's Jigsaw. This isn't William in the middle of the FNAF timeline. This is William trying to prove something, trying to justify his pain by putting someone else through it. And that's why he comes to the restaurant at 5 a.m. He's not coming to kill Elliot because he's winning. He's coming because he wants the ending to be personal. He kills him, stuffs him into the chip suit, and considers the night finished. Another victim contained, another spirit silenced, another threat buried before it can become a problem. But the moment Elliot dies, the entire story flips, because that's when the children finally make contact. The message, "Find Castle," isn't just a clue. It's the kids reaching out. It's the souls William tried to control doing the one thing he never prepared for, fighting back from inside his own game. And the Cursed Night minigame is their language, their world. It's not literal, it's symbolic. It's Elliot navigating a space built out of memories and trauma the kids experienced and helping them break down the barriers William left behind. Every boss you defeat represents another spirit being freed. Every key you collect is a child William tried to silence, locking them away. The furnace is where you merge them, giving them the strength they need to unlock the one door William never wanted opened: the box. And inside that box is one entity who can actually challenge him: the marionette, freed not by the police, not by Henry, not by the spirits, but by Elliot, the victim William assumed wouldn't survive 6 hours. She thanks him, she understands what William did to him, and she chooses to help. That ending scene, the puppet removing the suit and freeing Elliot from the spring locks, is the first time in the entire game that Elliot has any control over what's happening to him. He's no longer one more body in a suit, he's a survivor. And with the spirits awakened, the puppet free, and William still in the building, the true ending leaves us with the moment William has always feared. For once, he's not the hunter. Elliot is. Locked at Freddy's ends right where William's downfall begins, with the victim standing up, the souls awake and united, and the puppet finally out of the box. But as far as I'm aware, that's all Locked at Freddy's has to offer. Overall, I think this game serves as a very interesting retelling of the original story. The gameplay is very fun, and somehow managed to make me not hate my two most hated mechanics in FNAF history. Everything in this game feels responsive yet restrictive in just the right way, and all of the characters work together perfectly in tandem with one another, something a lot of fan games just aren't capable of. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think this game is actually just really underwhelming? The kings of classic FNAF fan games. What comes to mind when I say that? Maybe Five Nights at Candy's, Five Nights at Wario's, Those Nights at Rachel's, and Treasure Island, to name a few. But for you freaks, you goons, you heathens, there might just be another answer. A game so popular when it came out, for a reason I'm not even sure of myself. Today, I'll be talking about that game. A game so utterly terrible, yet somehow loved. Sit back and relax, because today we're diving into the weird world of Five Nights with Mac Tonight. Where do I even begin with this game? Probably by saying that for this video, I played both the first and second games, except not really, because I played the remastered versions of them. Was this a good idea? No. These games were pretty bad, and unironically enough, the thing about them that pissed me off the most was the story, but we'll get into that later. And trust me, you don't want to miss that. The game starts as you'd expect an old FNAF game to begin. We pick up a newspaper and accept a job at a restaurant full of animatronics waiting to break our consent and make their willy wag. We enter the restaurant and get the first phone call of the night, and really begin the nightmare that is this game. Not only are these phone calls absolutely horrific from a story standpoint, but they're also somehow even worse from an immersion standpoint. Why? Well, not only are they quite literally impossible to hear because of how fucking loud the rest of the game is.
This is Chris here. You may remember me. I'm the manager here at this business.
But I guess the developer thought that it'd be really funny not to cut out any of the mistakes by the voice actor.
We can't afford broken animatronics in a restaurant that hasn't even opened yet. We can't afford broken animatronics in a restaurant that hasn't even been broken to the public yet.
That's more funny than anything, but the whole barely being able to hear the phone call part is enough to make me want to throw a baby deer in a river. Oh yeah, and if that wasn't bad enough, the phone guy is also Australian, so that's just torture. Anyways, the phone guy doesn't really say anything of substance in this night, really only explaining the basics, but I get the feeling I can do a hell of a lot better than he can. Let's start by going over the few tools at our disposal. First, we have the cameras. No shit. On the cameras, we have a call button that is located on the camera that contains Mac Tonight. This button does what you'd think it does. Makes some noise, animatronics go, "Ew-wee," and then leave. But who's affected by the call button? Let's think long and hard about that one, guys. I don't know. Maybe the fucker who's on the same camera? Jesus Christ, why am I having to explain this basic concept to you? You're like a toddler, a little stupid drooling baby, a little insignificant worm, rodent, vermin, bug. Sorry. No, I'm not. That's a lie. Anyways, the only threat on this night is Mac himself, and he's pretty damn basic. All he does is meander through your cameras, like holy shit, he's so slow. Eventually, he'll wander into your office, which, pause for a minute. This is not an office. I think we're just stationed in the kitchen. Maybe? I quite literally have no idea where we are right now, because this to the left is the drive-through window. So we have to be in the kitchen, right? Because if so, that's stupid. But whatever. When Mac gets to your office, all you have to do is use the call button to cause him to go back to his stage. Very basic. What's the downside? I'm glad you asked, because of course there's a downside. If you use the call button too many times, an error will begin. To fix it, all you have to do is go to your control panel and reboot it. God, don't you guys miss playing Five Nights at Freddy's 3? What's that? You don't? That's unsurprising because FNAF 3 makes me want to stick my penis in a blender. But believe it or not, that's not the only attack Mac is capable of. The other attack consists of being a fat ass and going through the drive-thru several times each night. As I'm sure you could have guessed, Mac has the chance to instead wander to the drive-thru window, and when he does, all you have to do is open the control panel and literally just tell him to fuck off, and he listens. Surprising, I know, but you know what? I'm not gonna complain, because he listened, and I appreciate that. But after each night, we get to talk about the post-night cutscenes, which aren't really cutscenes because it's just a black screen with people talking. In this game, I have no idea who we play as, but who is important is the Australian man, so get used to hearing his voice a lot. The Australian man's name is Chris. He's the manager of the McDonald's we work at. And in this cutscene, he walks into the office of... I actually don't know who we could be talking to. It's clearly a higher up because Chris asks him for a raise, but I have no idea who this higher up could be. I'm guessing it's the owner of the building, or who knows, fuck, maybe it's the CEO of McDonald's, I don't know. Anyways, Chris walks into his boss's office and asks about a raise. Why do you ask? Well, this is where we get to talk about the most hilarious sequence of words I've ever heard. Chris says his daughter is sick, with either an infection or a disease. He doesn't know what it is, but in his expert McDonald's manager opinion, it looks fatal.
Well, so far my daughter and I are dealing with very little money, mainly affected by taxes and whatnot. She's currently going through some infection or disease. I don't know what it is, but it seems fatal.
I know this is supposed to be like a super serious moment in the story, but I just thought this sentence was so fucking funny. Maybe I'm an asshole. I don't know. Of course, Chris is all pissy that he doesn't get a raise, which, by the way, grow up. You did what you should have done and asked. You didn't end up getting it. That sucks. But you wanna know what you don't do? Throw a fucking temper tantrum and yell at your boss. Because that's just gonna get you fired, moron. I get your kid is probably dying, but you wanna know what'll make your financial situation a lot better? Not having a kid anymore. The boss explains that the reason Chris can't get a raise is because the company recently spent a lot of money on the new animatronics for the restaurant. They saw how well the Mac Tonight commercials performed on TV, so they thought it'd be a good idea to capitalize and buy the animatronics so that the company would make more money. That makes sense. However, because of this, the restaurant would be closed for a week while they did renovations on the building in preparation. This, overall, is a very valid explanation as to why Chris will not be getting a raise as of now. But instead, after only one fucking day of working at the goddamn restaurant, he's already both demanding a raise and throwing a fit after not getting one. Actual child behavior right here. Moving on to night 2, we get another call from our boy Chris. He's all mopey because his stupid kid is gonna die, blah, blah, blah. Who the fuck cares, am I right? He mentions something about the Hamburglar being found in the vents of the building, which, by the way, I would find hilarious if the Hamburglar wasn't also the most infuriating character in this entire game. Speaking of the Hamburglar, let's talk about what this dickhead does. The Hamburglar, as I'm sure you could have guessed, burgles hamburgers. The Hamburglar, The Hamburglar, as I'm sure you could have guessed, burgles hamburger. The Hamburglar, as I'm sure you could have guessed, burgles hamburgers, and based off of where they found him, is a vent animatronic. Actually, the vent animatronic, as no other characters actually use it directly. We'll talk about that later. The Hamburglar will try to find your vent and crawl inside of it, something I think is very interesting considering this fat motherfucker steals cheeseburgers for a living, something I'm sure his mother is very proud of. Now, here's where I get to talk about how much I hate this piece of shit. He has a few phases before he's fully in your vent. What you're supposed to do is, in the final phase before he enters, blow super hot air using a button in your cameras to scare him away. That in and of itself is super easy. The problem comes from not knowing where he is, which again is super surprising given his profession of choice. Now, in most FNAF games, when you look at the cameras, they slowly pan side to side. They do the same in Back to Nights as well. However, in most FNAF games, you can always see the character when they're on the camera, no matter what the position of the camera is. Can you tell where I'm going with this? If not, let me make it very clear for you. When the camera is panned all the way to the right on this vent camera, you literally cannot see the Hamburglar. Why is this a problem? Because the cameras move so goddamn slow that you often won't be able to tell when he's moving because the camera is constantly glued to the right side of the screen. Bro, I wish this camera wouldn't turn 400 billion feet away from that fucking thing. Bro, could you turn the fucking camera towards him so I can see his ass? Luckily for me, I eventually heard a sound cue he makes to make noticing his movements a lot easier. But holy shit, future FNAF game devs, please, for the love of God, don't make this mistake, because this made me want to find a silverback gorilla and have him start digging in me. But regardless, if you can learn the sound cue, the ham bitch boy really shouldn't be too much of an issue, and we can move on to the post-night 2 bullshit cutscene. This cutscene starts with Chris getting on the phone with who I'm assuming to be someone at the hospital that's seeing his daughter, which, by the way, doesn't make sense. In the previous cutscene, Chris told his boss he doesn't have money to even get his kid seen by the doctor, which, by the way, I know in the US you can't legally be denied medical care, but fuck you, it's not disclosed where this game takes place, so eat my balls. Regardless, it is confirmed she has a disease. Still insane that the disease doesn't have a name either, because they've also confirmed that there's nothing they can do and she is in fact going to die. I find it weird that they can both determine that it is fatal when they haven't confirmed what disease it is. Or who knows, maybe Chris is just retarded and can't pronounce words with more than 6 letters in them, as emphasized by him once again getting upset and calling his boss stupid for ordering the new animatronics for his, and I quote, greed of money.
That bastard. Ordering them pieces of junk just for his greed of money?
Moving on to night 3, we're told nothing important by Chris and are introduced to 2 new characters, Grimace and Ronald McDickhead. Let's talk about Grimace first, because Grimace would never hurt a fly. On purpose. Grimace works kind of like a foxy, having multiple stages before attacking you, except I actually just lied because he only has 1 phase before attacking you. When you see him move from his original position, all you need to do is press a button on your camera to make him go back. Are you starting to notice a pattern for this game's mechanics? That's fine. Maybe the main fucking mascot for McDonald's will be better. What does Ronald do? Well, he'll walk around the building, aimlessly probably, attempting to find your office. When he gets there, he'll make a sound cue and stand here. I can see this getting really... Who the fuck is that? What is Ronald McDonald? Oh my fucking ears! Oh my fucking ears! For fuck's sake! What the fuck was that? I think this is like a window to the dining area. Maybe. Again, I have no idea where we are in the building. When he is there... You wanna take a little guess what you have to do to stop him from turning into the gobble monster, lathering your nuts in honey and having a feast? Yeah, that's exactly right. You have to use the exact same call button that you use for Mac, except this time it makes no fucking sense because why the hell would that affect Ronald Donald? That's it. I'm not kidding. We're already at the point where we'll just talk about the next cutscene. For fuck's sake, people actually enjoy this game, and not just because of nostalgia. Whatever. In the night 3 cutscene, Chris goes into his boss's office, tells him that his daughter dying is somehow his fault, and then literally fucking stabs him to death. Slow way the fuck down. Really? That's your reaction to that? Sure, you didn't get the raise, but guess what? Clearly you were able to get her to the hospital because you found out it was fatal. But guess what, dumbass? No amount of money would have made it not fatal. And if it could have made it not fatal, then that just means you waited too long to get to the hospital to get it checked. Now, you might be thinking, oh, he didn't want to go to the hospital because he didn't have the money for it. Usually that would make sense, but I'm gonna say fuck you to that thought process in this situation, because if this guy is willing to kill somebody because his daughter is dying, I don't think anything would have stopped him from going into the hospital to attempt to figure out what's going on with her in a timely manner. This story is such a headache. This story is frustrating, and this story makes my dick hurt. If the plot of this game is trying to make me not like Chris, then I take back my criticism, as it's doing a great job at that. But if it's instead trying to make me side with Chris and understand his way of thinking and say, you know what? Sure, killing someone is bad, but at least you could argue he had a good reason to, then this game is doing an absolutely horrendous job at doing so. Night 4 time. What does Night 4 introduce? Well, first, I want to take a brief moment to talk about the phone call and about how little sense this story makes. So, the phone guy is very clearly Chris. You can tell by the ear-grating Australian accent. So, I can't figure out the order of events that take place in this game. As we're playing through the nights, it's clear that the animatronics that were being brought have already arrived. The same animatronics that caused Chris's boss to not give him a raise. Cool. We're told in this phone call that the restaurant still has yet to open, which, by the way, raises a whole different ordeal of questions, like why the fuck are we even here? But whatever, let's forget about that for a moment. Throughout this phone call, it's very clear that Chris is bothered by the fact that the animatronics are moving from their positions at night, and he yells at us to move them back before we leave work. He says that we can't afford to have these animatronics break before the building is open to the public. So pause. Why the fuck does Chris care? Maybe I'm not even asking this question in the right way. So here, let's just pause and let's go over everything we know real quick and pretend that it all makes sense. Chris asks for a raise, gets denied. His daughter is told she's going to die and there's nothing they can do about it. Chris then kills his boss. This is what we know so far from the post-night cutscenes. We also know that Chris thinks the robots are stupid and have a part to play in his kid dying. So then tell me, why the fuck does he care so much about the state of these animatronics when in his mind they have a large part in why his daughter is either dead or dying? This is the big problem for me with this series. When I stop to think about why what's happening is happening, it just doesn't make any goddamn sense. And get this, when we start talking about the second game, it's going to make even less sense. No, I'm not joking. We'll talk about the second game in a bit, but this fact is just making me think that the dev wrote the story as he went. But okay, let's stop talking about the phone call now and move on to the threats this night introduces. Birdie and Mayor McCheese. Let's start with Mayor McCheese because it's literally just Mac tonight with a Fortnite skin on. Literally, he does the same thing. Can enter your office and show up at your drive-thru, is both dealt with in the same ways. Worthless character. With that out of the way, we can talk about the much more interesting character, which, for a female bird character in a FNAF game, I surprisingly have no sexual tendencies towards it, because this bird is butt ugly. Birdie is the only other character that interacts with your vent, except unlike Big Boy, she doesn't actually enter it, probably because she's the size of Jupiter. All she likes to do is break your shit, so she must have gotten divorced, am I right, fellas? Anyways, her goal is to break your vent heater. A sound cue will play when she does so, and when she does, all you have to do is use your maintenance panel to fix it. And hey, while we're here talking about the maintenance panel, let's talk about how jank it is, and how it adds literally no challenge to this game whatsoever. The maintenance panel in Five Nights at Freddy's 3 adds a challenge because when something is being repaired, you can't use it, leading to a lot of bullshit timings that artificially make the game more difficult than it technically is. Mac Tonight's aimed to do the same thing, except they forgot the part where fixing something makes it temporarily unusable. While yes, the fixing beeps take a long time to finish, the moment you click the repair button, the problem is solved. So you can go to fix the heater, press the button, and immediately after use the heater to blow away the hungry bitch boy. Isn't that just awesome? The answer is yes, because without this gameplay flaw, this game would probably be impossible. Moving on to the night 4 post-night cutscene, we hear Chris driving in his car. And it's during this scene my mind was fucking blown, because this story somehow begins to make even less sense. It's here where we learn that up until now, Chris hasn't even been a manager. He was just an employee, and the guy he killed was the manager. Before I continue talking about this, we need to pause and immediately go over another massive flaw in this game's story logic. So, in case you didn't know, managers aren't the ones who give you a fucking raise, you moron! There is quite literally nothing he could have done for you. It's not his decision to make. The way raises typically work is the manager will recommend an employee for a raise. It's then either up to HR, a committee, the owner, or even higher management to decide whether or not to give the raise. This fucking retard killed a guy for no fucking reason whatsoever. And the craziest part, now he's taking his place. And that's why we hear him on the phone calls. He's the fucking manager now. Want to hear some even more mindfuck? He states on the phone call that he's going over to the facility where the animatronics are being stored to go destroy them. If he's destroying them, why the fuck does he care about them so much in the phone call we receive on night 4? What the actual fuck is going on in this goddamn story? It makes no fucking sense. And guess what? It's still going to make even less sense once we start talking about the second game. So strap in, guys, because if you haven't gone brain dead yet, then you're going to later. Going into night 5, we receive one last phone call from Chris. He thanks us for protecting the animatronics, even though literally in the night previously, we got yelled at for letting them move. But fuck it, whatever. At the end of this phone call, something enters the office and ganks his ass.
You should wait. What are you doing?
Oh shit.
Get away from me, you piece of...
Oh shit. Not totally sure what it is, we're left to finish off the night, which, as I'm sure you could have guessed, adds nothing new, so we can move right on to the post-night cutscene. So, I need you guys to take a deep breath before we dive into this cutscene, because you're going to need to use your head a lot, and honestly, it may implode from stupidity. During this scene, we hear the voice of Chris's manager, so we know that this has to take place before he was killed. He mentions that the animatronics have been very damaged in the facility they were being held in. We know from the last call that Chris was going to destroy them, which is why he was driving. So we know that scene takes place before this one. However, that also means that during that scene, Chris's boss was still alive, which means he went to destroy the animatronics to piss his manager off and then killed him. Now, slow down. That doesn't make any sense. Why would he do something like that if his final plan was to kill him? That wouldn't make any sense. He wouldn't get the chance to be angry about it because he'd be dead right after. I should also mention that his manager mentions needing to check the cameras to see what damaged them. And from a very, very important detail we will learn in the second game, it makes the scene where his boss is killed even more confusing. But I'll talk about that later once we learn this very important detail. For now, let's just move on to night 6. Remember how I said the call we got from Chris on night 5 was the last? Well, guess what, shithead? I lied to you. That's right, never trust YouTubers, especially not FNAF ones. They're either liars or pedophiles. And seeing the types of people I'm up against, I'm really glad I got given the liar trait and not the other one. Anyways, yeah, we still do get a phone call from Chris this night, except this time it's revealed that he's turned into an animatronic. Woo! Spooky, bitch! For some reason, he wants to kill us. I don't know why. He says that he can't have any witnesses, but that brings up way more questions. One, is he implying that we saw him kill his manager? Because I'm pretty sure we didn't. Trying to follow the timeline would show we weren't even working here at that time, so that's not possible. Second, even if we did see it, you're dead and have been turned into an animatronic or something. So it's not like you can be held responsible for your actions anyways. Also, yeah, I think it's pretty obvious Chris got killed by Mac in Night 5's phone call, as Chris is now a new threat in this night that will attack you. He's literally just Mac. He even looks like Mac. He attacks the doors, attacks the drive-thrus. Wahoo! Once you beat Night 6, you'll be thrown into a sort of free roam section, except not really, because it's a scripted scene where you walk up to Mac. He looks at you and the screen goes black, and then we get to talk about the post-night cutscene. This one takes place at who the fuck knows when. Chris is talking to his boss about getting a job watching over the warehouse where the animatronics are stored, the same place he later goes to destroy them. Okay, so we know this takes place before that, but can we pinpoint exactly when this takes place? The answer to that question is yes, and to answer it, we have to take a look at the second game. But before we hop over to that game, I have one more question to ask. What the fuck was the point of the character we played as during the night segments? We quite literally served no purpose. Apparently we were witnesses, but we never actually witnessed anything. At first I thought, maybe Chris is destroying the animatronics, and then pretending in the phone calls to us it's something else doing it. But that wouldn't make sense because 1, we're not in the facility where they're stored, we're in the McDonald's, and 2, Chris killed his manager after he destroyed the robots. And we know that during the night sections his manager is already dead because Chris is the manager at that point. So what the fuck did we even do except just work at fucking McDonald's? I guess we got looked at by Mac at the end, but it seems like we were just utterly useless. Also, we were wearing a yellow glove, which would lead me to believe it was actually in the POV of fucking Ronald. I don't know what the hell's happening right now. But whatever, let's forget about this mess and just hope that Mac Tonight's 2 is better than this one. Spoiler alert, it's a lot worse. Get a refill on snacks and drinks. Let's dive deeper down the shithole. When it comes to Five Nights at Mac Tonight's 2, not only is it worse gameplay-wise, it's also worse story-wise, somehow. Let's start by getting one huge detail I noticed out of the way. On the title screen, you can see a list of credits, and if you look close enough, you can see that one of the people who helped work on this game was, Ivan G, aka the creator of my least favorite FNAF fan game series of all time, Jolly. If you'd like to hear me rant all about that game, you can do so after you finish this video, as I have an entire hour-long review of that game up on this channel. Also, I haven't done this at all in this video, so go subscribe to Dexter Black, Dexter Blue, Dexter Gray, join the Discord server, and go check out the merch store as well. All links in the description. In Mac Tonight's 2, we play as Chris, which would reveal that this game takes place both before the events of the first game and before Chris killed his manager. Loading into the first night, the phone call doesn't tell us a whole lot. Basically what we already know. Chris took up the job to watch the warehouse where the animatronics are stored, but of course, we know he's just there to destroy them. Let's talk about our tools. This time around, we have 2 sets of cameras, one normal set and another set specifically for the vents. The only threat active on night 1 is Mac, who will walk through your cameras to try to get to your office. This time around, there are 2 entrances, that being 2 doors. Why? Because fuck you! What I really want to focus on was the biggest dick move I've ever seen a game pull before. Let's take a moment to tunnel vision on the only 2 cameras that matter in this game. Camera 2 and Camera 4. Both cameras are the cameras right next to your office doors, and through each you can remotely turn on a safety lock to keep the robots out. Each door has its own power supply. The problem? These power supplies drain fast as fuck. So much so that I was noticing on earlier nights that when Mac would appear on camera 4, that by the time he'd leave, I'd be left with a big chunk of power missing, which led me to believe that the remainder of the nights would be very difficult because no shit, he would be attacking more frequently. Something even cooler? Where does Mac go after camera 4? Camera 2. What's in camera 2? Another fucking entrance to the office. Holy shit, we have to waste even more power. Now pause. If you're familiar with this game, I can already tell you're going to the comments to explain to me how badly I'm not understanding how this mechanic works. And shut up. I know that's not exactly how it works. I like to explain based on my experience, and this is how it went. Turns out, this camera state is not Mac about to open the camera 4 door. He actually has 2 different phases on this camera, attack and no attack. When he's standing like this, away from the door, then you know he's just traveling to camera 2 to attack. He will look like this when it's actually him attacking camera 4's door. So what's the problem? Well, I literally never saw Mac go into his attack camera 4 state until night 3. Excuse me? I don't think that it's my fault for not noticing earlier when my RNG with movements is that dog shit. Holy fuck. But whatever. After learning that, I had no problems with Mac, and we're free to move on to the post-night 1 cutscene. Psych! Guess what? There aren't any. We're just jumping right into night 2. Night 2 drops a fucking bombshell on me and blows up all hope of understanding the lore of this game. It's revealed on this night that the phone guy isn't Chris's boss, as he mentions that the manager at a McDonald's had his throat slit, now establishing that Chris had already killed him. This doesn't make any sense, and it pisses me off. And you'll understand why later when we talk about that very important detail I mentioned earlier, so just bear with me a bit longer. For now, let's go over this night's threats. This night introduces this game's Toy Freddy equivalent, the Hamburglar. And no, not because of his game mechanics, but because he's a fat ass. He is the character to introduce the vent mechanics, exactly how he does in the first game, except this time it's somehow even more worthless. Once he enters your vents, he will appear in any of the 4. When he does, all you have to do is seal the vent he is in until he leaves. Each vent has its own power supply, and these two drain very fast. But that doesn't matter because even during this game's most difficult canon night, you will hardly ever be attacked. The phone guy mentions that only one vent can be sealed at a time, but fun fact, that's actually just not fucking true at all because you can seal all of them at the same time if you really wanted to, so that's cool. Night 3 introduces one new threat, but before we can talk about that, we need to talk about the headache that is this night's phone call. During this call, the phone guy tells us that Mac's box was moved and looks like it had been opened. Of course, that makes sense because we watched him walk around the building. All good. Whatever. However, he also mentions the progress the police have made on the murder of Chris's manager. They found out he was a former employee and that he was spotted running out of the building wearing a mask and a McDonald's uniform. Pause, please. My brain can only take so much stupidity at a time. So, what this tells us is that at the time Chris killed his manager, he wasn't working at the McDonald's because they referred to him as a former employee. That doesn't make sense because during the Night 3 cutscene in the first game, when Chris enters his manager's office to kill him, his manager mentions that there's nothing he can do to help. So we know he was working there. Maybe that was a mistake and he wasn't working there, or maybe this is a mistake and they shouldn't have said former employee. But let's just say this game is correct and he was a former employee. Why the fuck was he wearing a McDonald's uniform if he didn't even work there? This story doesn't make any fucking sense and nothing lines up. No, this is not a case of the game being mysterious and, ooh, it's our job as theorist hunters to piece it together. Fuck you. This is just bad writing, like really fucking bad writing. We still haven't even gotten the real bombshell yet, the very important detail I've been talking about throughout this video. But before we can get to it, we have to talk about tonight's threat, Birdie. Birdie did something unique in the last game. What about this one? Nope, she's just a Hamburglar. Enters vents, seal them, that's it. Moving on. Night 4 somehow manages to make even less sense than ever before. We're told that Birdie had gotten damaged, like a crowbar was smashed into her face. Okay, so we know that at this point, Chris had already begun breaking the animatronics. Cool. Now, here's the stupid part. We're told that the police are obviously still investigating the murder. They questioned all the current employees about the incident, and the phone guy tells us, no joke, that they put the employees who were suspects through a lie detector. Fuck the fact that lie detectors can be notoriously inaccurate. Let's talk about the fact that they know it's a former employee. Ding, 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 former. So why the fuck are the current employees suspects? That doesn't even make any fucking sense why they would suspect a current employee of being the murderer when they know it was a former employee. Sure, the guy was wearing a uniform, but they've already established that he was a former employee, aka not a fucking employee anymore. Am I overreacting? Does this story actually make perfect sense and I'm just retarded? I don't think it does. Anyways, the threat on this night is Mayor McCheese. He's just Mac. Goes to the door, close it, what the fuck ever. I know you guys are just interested in this story at this point and how retarded it is. Night 5 phone call. Let's go over it. Mayor McCheese was damaged, obviously our doing. We're told that today is our last night, yet for some reason we're told that we can come in tomorrow if we really want to. Why? I literally have no idea. And the phone guy literally offers no good explanation whatsoever. It's clear that at this point, the phone guy thinks we're not doing our job well. And to be fair, we really aren't, so that makes sense. Really nothing important in this call, so let's just go over the final threat in this game, Grimace. Grimace, surprisingly, does something different than the other characters. He acts sort of like a phantom balloon bitch from Five Nights at Freddy's 3. He will slowly leave his box, and when he does, he'll appear on a camera. If you see him, close the cameras and he'll reset to his box. If you don't do it fast enough, he'll force your cameras to reboot, which will take a while, so like, just close the cameras. Who gives a fuck? Let's just talk about this stupid fucking story and the stupid fucking important detail I've been teasing for the last half hour. During the Night 6 phone call, it's revealed that the phone guy checked the cameras of the warehouse and saw Chris breaking the animatronics, specifically Grimace. He tells us that we need to get out, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we know, no shit, he's pissed, and rightfully so. But hold up. Did you hear what I just said? He checked the cameras and saw us. Doesn't that sound familiar? Oh yeah, it does. Why, you ask? Well, this little tidbit is that super important detail I've been talking about throughout this video. Towards the end of Mac Tonight 1, during the final cutscene, we hear Chris's manager mentioning that the robots are being damaged and that he needs to check the cameras. This would tell me that this exact moment is what he was talking about then. But here's the crazy part. All of that would add up perfectly fine if it wasn't confirmed that the phone guy in the second game wasn't the fucking manager, because he said the manager was already dead. So who the fuck is this guy? And why did the manager say he needed to check the cameras of the warehouse at the end of the first game? This story literally makes no fucking sense whatsoever. There was no thought put into it. I can't piece any of it together because each piece of the fucking puzzle is from a different goddamn box. What the fuck do you expect from me, game? I finally get confident enough to talk about the stories of the games I play in my videos, and then I'm hit with this fucking bullshit. I've spent hours upon hours trying to figure this shit out to find out it's been completely fucking broken from the start. The gears in my brain are turning so fast, I think the whole engine altogether is gonna fucking explode. Thank God I got that out of my system.
Do you remember FNAF World, the RPG by Scott Cawthon after the release of Five Nights at Freddy's 4? Back when we all thought the franchise would be over. Of course you do. It was probably one of the most controversial games he's ever made. Now, how about the FNAF RPG that came before it? Do you remember that? Do you remember the Five Nights at Freddy's fan game that broke the classic FNAF formula and decided to do something completely unique and never seen before? A game that turned the target audience for FNAF completely on its head, with more vulgarities in a single 3-hour game than your drunk stepdad. I'm sure a light bulb is going off in some of your heads already, but for those of you who don't follow, or for those of you who are too young to remember the early days of Five Nights at Freddy's, the game I'm talking about is Five Nights at Fuckboys, a FNAF RPG created by Sable Lynn and Joshua Shaw back in November of 2014. For all of you that remember, I'm going to take you on a stroll down memory lane as we dive back into the world of Five Nights at Fuckboys. Since the franchise has been released, there has been an updated version created by Zane. The update greatly fixes a lot of problems that the originals had, such as the sound effects not being louder than an atomic bomb, and much needed difficulty balancing. This video will only be covering the first game in this series, but note that there are more games, and if you like this video and are interested in hearing me talking about the other ones, definitely let me know in the comments below. Before we begin, I'd like to say thank you all so much for the support on my last video. Within 4 days of that video being posted, it passed 1,000 views, which is absolutely crazy, and I honestly can't thank you all enough. Roar the Rapper corrected me on the comment I made about taking shifts in my last video, and that gave me a fun idea. I think it'd be fun to ask you guys a question at the end of the video, and show my favorite answer at the beginning of the next video, so stick around to the end of the video if you'd like to participate. Without further ado, let's get into the video. In Five Nights at Fuckboys, we play as Freddy. We start on the show stage in the original game's location. We can move around the pizzeria freely and explore wherever we'd like. Even though this game is pretty linear in terms of progression, I really like that no location is blocked off until we make progress, aside from the office, which is only unlocked at the end of the game, but that's for good reason. The goal of this game is to get into the office, presumably to kill the security guard, just like the animatronics from the original. However, if you just try to go to the office right away, the security guard will see you coming because of the cameras and shut the door on you, but not before Freddy says this amazing line.
I want you inside of me.
And they say chivalry is dead. Ladies, this is what a real man should be saying to you. That was a joke, by the way. So, since it's clear that the security guard can see us coming, what would the logical choice be? Do we wait outside of his door so that the power runs out? No, of course not. That'd make too much sense. What we do instead is beat the shit out of all the cameras so that he can't see us. Alright, cool. A new objective. There are multiple cameras around the pizzeria, just like the original, but we really have to be careful as each of these cameras act as a boss. You can tell which cameras are more difficult than others because before you choose to fight them, you can see their difficulty listed at the top of the screen, which I think is a really nice addition. But before I can dive into the boss fights, we have to talk about how this game actually plays. As I said, this is an RPG, so there is a lot of turn-based fighting. But try your best not to let that turn you off from giving this game a try. As you walk around the pizzeria, randomly you will enter fights with party hats. There are multiple types of party hats: alpha hats, beta hats, gamma hats, and omega hats. Each listed is more difficult than the last, each having more health, damage, and skills as the last. The area of the pizzeria that you're in dictates which type of party hat you will find. This is a small way of letting you know which area you should be going to. If you're used to fighting alpha hats, which are the weakest, and you wander into an area that has omega hats, which are the strongest, that's a pretty good sign that you probably shouldn't be over there yet. That's what I mean when I say that the game can be pretty linear progression-wise. However, I really like that even though in that situation there's no way you'd be beating an Omega Party Hat, you still have the option to venture over there, something which I wish modern RPGs would do. Beating Party Hats, or any enemies, will give you XP and tokens, an in-game currency you can use to buy items. At the start of the game, you can buy items from the vending machine in the dining area. The vending machine sells really shitty items, but shopping from here will be pretty necessary for the early moments of the game. When I first went into this game, I told myself I wouldn't use items in battle. I was thinking of this game like Pokemon. In Pokemon, I hate using items in battle, so I thought I could do that here too. Let me tell you, you will need to use items in battle, as this game is most likely impossible without them. However, unlike Pokemon, where using items in battle makes the game incredibly easy, even with items in battle in Five Nights at Fuckboys, you'll still probably find yourself struggling from time to time. I think if you want to say you don't want to use items in battle for a challenge, don't use pizzas or cakes. Pizzas heal health and cakes revive party members. A character you get later in the game can do both of these things with a special ability, so using them, while doing the same thing, can't be spammed as much as the items can. In battle, I liked to use just the soda as an item, since I felt it didn't make every fight super easy. Soda just increases your party member's SP, which stands for special points. Don't worry, I'll get into all that later. I suppose I should probably talk about how the battling works. As you enter a battle, for each character in your party, you get to select one of 4 options: Scream, Skills, Guard, and Item. Scream is just a basic attack that costs you nothing. Skills will allow you to use one of your skills. Each character will gain a maximum of 5. Every character starts with Scan, an ability that costs nothing and doesn't even waste a turn. It allows you to see the health of a target enemy and anything special that the enemy does. I mainly only ever used this for bosses, since a lot of them have cheats to make them more difficult. I'll get into that later. Guard will make that party member guard for the turn. It costs nothing and makes the character's defense increase massively for the turn. And Item allows a character to choose an item you have in your inventory and target another party member or itself with it. After all of your party members have selected what they will do, based on your party members' speed stats and the speed stat of your enemies, each entity in the fight will perform the action they chose. After every action has been taken, the cycle repeats. It continues to repeat until either you defeat all the enemies or the enemies defeat your entire party. With the basics explained, we can get into the meat of the game. Just from walking around, you'll be able to find the other animatronics, Bonnie, Foxy, and Chica. Well, you can't see Chica because she's in the kitchen and the kitchen is locked. The kitchen and the office are the only two rooms you can't enter immediately. So, trying to use just Freddy to progress is not fun and is very frustrating and tedious, so your best course of action is to add the other characters to your party to help out. Walking into the back room, you'll find Bonnie. Upon talking to him, he tells you he's missing his face, and he wants you to find it for him. We'll get back to Bonnie later as he's the last member you'll add to your party. In the back room, you also see this party hat. These party hats act as mini-bosses in the game, and you can find them in various areas of the game. Once you beat any of them, which can be a pretty hard challenge, especially the first one, Balloon Boy will appear. Balloon Boy acts as the shopkeeper in this game. Once you unlock the first Balloon Boy, you will never have to go back to the vending machine again. Balloon Boy, along with selling pizzas, sodas, and cakes, also sells helpful items, such as better versions of weapons for each character, armor, and accessories. Each increases a specific stat for your party members. Each time you unlock a Balloon Boy, the items he sells gets better and better, giving you a clear incentive to fight these mini-bosses. I really like how simple his shop is. It's very straightforward with what you should buy, and you won't find yourself sitting in the shop for long periods of time trying to figure out the best way to build your party. But in order to beef up our party, we actually need to fill it first. We know we can't get to Chica yet because she's locked in the kitchen, so that means we have to get Foxy first. Walking into Pirate's Cove, we see Foxy behind the curtain. I'm not going to say what he's doing in there, but I'm sure you can read. At this point, if you walk back into the main room, you can find a lighter in a box. Taking the lighter and going back into Pirate's Cove, Freddy attempts to burn it down, but before he can do that, Balloon Boy steals the lighter from Freddy and forces you to buy it from him. There's literally no purpose behind this besides to show you how annoying Balloon Boy is. After you buy the lighter back from Balloon Fuck, you can actually burn down Pirate's Cove. Doing so forces Foxy to join your party. At this point, if you enter the bathroom, you can find a key. While you're in here, you might think to enter the actual bathrooms. You can enter the men's room just fine, but upon trying to enter the women's room, Freddy won't because he's a man. We'll have to come back later with a female character. Speaking of, with this key, we can unlock the kitchen. Upon doing so, Chica joins our party. With Chica, we'll be able to get into the women's bathroom. Inside, there's a chest with a voucher inside. There's also a party hat mini-boss. After beating it and unlocking the bathroom Balloon Boy, talking to him lets you exchange the voucher for Bonnie's face. Going back to the back room, you give Bonnie his face back and he joins your party. Congrats! You now have the entire party of characters with you. Now's probably a good time to talk about each character's skills. Every 5 levels, a character will unlock a new one, with a maximum of level 20 and 4 total unlocked skills. Freddy's level 5 skill is Top Hat Toss. It costs SP or special points, and the amount it costs depends on Freddy's level. This is the same for most abilities in the game, spanning across all characters. The higher the level, the more it costs. Top Hat Toss deals large damage to an enemy and hits twice. His level 10 ability is Lead Stinger. It deals damage once and deals more damage if the target enemy is poisoned. There are several buffs and debuffs in this game, and poison is one of them. This move also has a small chance to inflict poison upon dealing damage. The poison debuff will cause the inflicted entity to take damage at the end of the turn. Freddy's level 15 skill is Toreador March, a skill that hits several times. Each hit deals a very small amount of damage, but it leaves the targeted enemy with a large chance of being put to sleep, which is another debuff. Entities with sleep will be unable to perform any actions until they wake up. Freddy's level 20 ability is Death Inhale. This ability can only be used once per battle and costs 100 TP. TP stands for Technique Points, and a character gains them by being damaged by enemies. 100 is the maximum amount a character can have, and every battle starts each party member with 0, so getting any character to 100 TP can prove to be a challenge. Death Inhale will do an enormous amount of damage to a targeted enemy and hit them multiple times. Foxy's level 5 ability is Plank Walk, an ability that deals a large amount of damage and has a chance to paralyze the targeted enemy. Paralyzed entities have a chance to not be able to perform actions. The chance of causing paralysis increases with the more TP Foxy has. Foxy's level 10 ability is Rushdown. When used, Foxy will hit the enemy several times with pretty high damage on each hit. Foxy's level 15 ability is Speed Share, an ability that just increases all party members' speed. And his level 20 ability is Sea Shanty, an ability that greatly decreases the targeted enemy's attack and defense, and has a chance to inflict silence, which is another debuff. Entities with silence will be unable to use their skills. Chica's level 5 ability is Pizza Pass, an ability that heals a target party member a great amount of health, by far her best ability. Her level 10 ability is Fearless Flight. It deals a pretty shitty amount of damage to a target enemy, but any buffs that enemy had get removed, so that's really nice. Chica's level 15 ability is Caffeine Revival. It does exactly what you think it does. Revives a dead party member. I never found myself using this much since enemies tended to hit all party members rather than just focusing on one, which is really nice. Chica's level 20 ability is Mama Bird. It increases a target party member's defense and increases their SP by 50%. Because I tended to use sodas a lot in battle, I never found myself using this ability very often. And finally, we have Bonnie, the character who I honestly found the most useless in battle. It's very clear he's supposed to be a general support, just like Chica is a healing support, but he kind of does it in a way that you almost never use him. I usually ended up using Bonnie as the character who used items, but his level 5 ability is Bunny Hop, which hits a target enemy multiple times and has a small chance to lower their defense, and I do mean a small chance. His level 10 ability is Riff Wave, by far the ability I had him use the most. It deals a large amount of damage to a target enemy and has a medium chance to inflict poison. The poison is the main reason I used this ability, just so Freddy's ability would deal more damage. Bonnie's level 15 ability is Backup Bash. It deals a lot of damage and has a medium chance to decrease the targeted enemy's attack. This ability actually deals more damage depending on how many party members are dead, but since you probably won't have members dead all too often, and the fact that Freddy and mainly Foxy are your two main hitters, you will almost never use this ability unless you're specifically trying to decrease enemy damage. And finally, his level 20 ability is Motivation Jam, in my opinion, his best ability. It greatly increases the defense and attack of a targeted party member for about 4 turns. Super helpful when paired with Foxy or Freddy when he uses Death Inhale. Wow, that took longer than I thought it would. I apologize, let's continue. Again, in order to get to the office, we have to knock out all the cameras. The first camera I recommend beating is the show stage camera, as it has no cheats. Just beat it normally, and you're on to the next one. The dining room camera is what I suggest you do next. It and every other camera from this point forward will have a cheat to make their fight more difficult. This one will drain your SP every turn. With how early in the game you'll fight this camera, this cheat is devastating. The back room camera will get stronger and stronger each turn, so the longer you spend trying to kill it, the more and more damage it will do to your party members. The West Hall camera is one of the worst. Every turn it will heal around 500 health. Considering where you are at the time, that can be 70 to 80% of your damage output each turn, making this fight take way longer than it needs to. Pack plenty of soda for this one. The East Hall camera's cheat really isn't a problem. Like the dining room camera, instead of draining your SP, it drains your TP instead. At this point in the game, you probably won't find yourself relying on TP yet, unless you like to spam Foxy's Plank Walk ability, which you should really be using Rushdown for Foxy anyway, since it's just better in most cases. The bathroom camera can cause a real problem if you're not prepared. Your entire party is inflicted with poison the entire fight, and there's no way to get rid of it. Depending on when you decide to fight this camera, this can be a real run killer. Pirate's Cove camera has a speed so high that the only character in your party that will perform their action before it is Foxy. Highly recommend using Foxy's speed share ability during this fight. After doing that, it should be a cakewalk. The supply closet camera is by far the easiest, considering you're fighting them in the correct order, which is the order that I'm telling you to fight them in. The camera will literally heal your party. I have no idea why it does this, but it does. The East Hall corner camera isn't the worst, considering I fought some of the other optional mini bosses before this. That might be the reason I feel this way. I'll get into those optional mini-bosses after these cameras. This camera will perform 2 actions per turn rather than 1. I could imagine that if I didn't beat the optional mini-bosses, that this fight and the next would have been much more difficult. The West Hall corner camera is probably the last one you should fight, mainly because of its health and damage output. But its cheat is super important to note. It is immune to all debuffs, which means it can't be paralyzed, poisoned, silenced, or put to sleep. This will greatly change how you go about fighting it, since, at least through my playthrough, I put a huge emphasis on poisoning my enemies. After beating the final camera, the power to the pizzeria will go out and you'll be able to enter the office for the final battle. But before I talk about that, there's a few things that happen before you fight the final camera that we need to talk about. I'll start with the optional mini-bosses I was talking about earlier. Once you max a character to level 20, their toy variant will appear on the map somewhere. Challenging them and beating them will give you the best version of said character's weapon. I fought them in order of Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, then Mangle. I do not recommend you beat them in that order, as some of them are much more difficult than others. I recommend you start with Toy Freddy, then Mangle, then Toy Bonnie, and ending with Toy Chica. Toy Chica was surprisingly the most difficult out of all of them. She was able to hit all of my party members multiple times in a single turn for huge damage, easily having all of their health. This is one of the only fights where I felt like I needed to use healing items in battle because she would not stop fingering me in the asshole. There's also an optional boss you can fight. Well, it's optional to beat, mandatory to fight, that being the puppet. The wiki says the puppet spawns after beating your second camera, but I swear I beat at least 4 cameras before he spawned. Maybe that's because I was playing the complete collection instead of the original though. Either way, once the puppet spawns, a timer will appear in the top corner of your screen. When it runs out, you have to fight the puppet. You don't have to beat him to progress, but there's no reason not to since he gives a large amount of XP. In the complete collection, there's no way to reset this timer, and it will continue to count down even during fights. In my playthrough, it ran out while I was fighting Toy Freddy, and Toy Freddy had killed Chica. I had no way to revive her going into the puppet's fight, and that definitely made it much more difficult and tense since Chica is almost mandatory to beat any fight because she's the one that will be healing and reviving your characters. After beating the puppet, you can go into the bathroom and have an optional fight with the marionette, a more difficult version of the puppet. I didn't do this fight because I didn't know if it would be harder than the office fight. Considering finishing the office fight ends the game, I'm gonna have to assume that the marionette is not more difficult, but again, I never fought it. After doing these optional fights that you should definitely do if you don't want to get butt banged in the final fight, you can head down to the office and go inside. Upon entering, you're greeted by Golden Freddy, who's pissed that you didn't invite him to join the fun you've been having throughout the night. Golden Freddy is Five Nights at Fuckboy's final boss. He is the only boss in the game to have multiple other enemies you have to fight along with him. Alongside Golden Freddy, you also have to fight 4 Omega Party Hats, which, if you remember, are the most difficult party hat in the game. They're not too much of an issue, but I definitely recommend you take them out before you start targeting Golden Freddy, as their attacks can rack up a large amount of damage if left unanswered. As I said before, after beating Golden Freddy, the game ends. Golden Freddy screams, for no joke, 5 nights straight because he's a little pissy poop baby. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the Five Nights at Freddy's fanverse, and I'm sure you know of the questionable character that took part in it, but that's not what this video will be talking about. Maybe I'll cover that hot mess another day. Today, I want to tell you all about a creator from the Fanverse initiative that was forced to remove all of his FNAF related projects, why, and most importantly, my favorite game that he made, which is now banned. To start, I want to clarify, because some of you may be wondering, how are you talking about this game and how do you have gameplay of you playing it on your second channel Dexter Black, which everyone watching should definitely subscribe to, if the game has been banned? Well, that's because people are awesome and have not only archived the game in question that I'll be talking about today, but all games that this creator was forced to remove. The game we'll be talking about today is the banned FNAF game, but also, hands down, one of the scariest FNAF fan games I've ever played, A Shadow Over Freddy's. Before we begin, I'd like to say that I don't make FNAF videos. I make horror game videos. I've just recently been finding so many FNAF games that I've been wanting to talk about. And I will be moving the question of the video winner to the end of the video to hopefully not interrupt and ruin people's experience of the video. Hope you understand, and let's go. A Shadow Over Freddy's begins with some dialogue explaining that we wake up in a dark room and that all we can hear is the low buzz of a metal fan. If you couldn't guess, this room in question is the office from Five Nights at Freddy's 1. Before saying, quote, "Leave immediately before the shadows that have devoured this abandoned building come to consume you as well." We're shown that we have 5 nights remaining, and now we're thrown into the main gameplay loop. A Shadow Over Freddy's is a semi-free roam game where you walk around the pizzeria from FNAF 1. Each night has a different task for you to complete, and as the nights go on, more and more threats are added for you to keep track of. Night 1's objective is simple: find the exit. This game is incredibly accurate to the building we see in Five Nights at Freddy's 1, minus 2 specific things. There's a break room for employees which is located right next to the back room, and an arcade area that's right next to the kitchen door. I guess you could make the argument that there were arcades in FNAF 1, since you really never got a good angle of that part of the pizzeria, but fuck you. I've never seen anyone else do it, so I'm gonna say it's not accurate to the original. Other than that, if you know the FNAF 1 location, you'll be able to move around the area quite easily. A moment ago I said that this game was semi-free roam. I say this because while yes, it is free roam, it's not free roam in the way that other free roam games are. You're still moving from screen to screen like you do in Sister Location, but there's no set path you're forced to take and you can go wherever you'd like. You're equipped with a flashlight and you'll very soon notice that the pizzeria is dark. Like, really fucking dark. Like the night. Like black. Like charcoal black. Batman black, some would even say. So, seeing isn't super easy. To move around, you just have to point your mouse at the area you want to go and click to advance to that area. Pretty simple. Where does the threat come in? There are 2 threats prevalent in Night 1, the clock and Freddy. The clock is pretty simple. Rather than having to survive until 6 AM like in most FNAF games, you only have until 6 AM to complete the task you have to complete. If it reaches 6 AM and you still haven't completed your task, the game is over. As each night goes on, the clock moves faster and faster. The other threat this night introduces is Freddy. Freddy has a chance to appear in any room that you are in. When you see him in your room, you have to point your flashlight at him until he goes away. And this is when you'll notice that the animatronics in this game aren't really animatronics. Instead, they're shadows. Get it? Like a Shadow Over Freddy's? Like the name of the fucking game? Laugh. You better fucking laugh! Here's something I found interesting about Freddy, and 2 of the other animatronics in this game. Unlike most FNAF games, where your reaction time needs to be on point, there's really no need for that in A Shadow Over Freddy's. The animatronics don't care if you're standing right next to them for 10 years. Instead, if you move to another area of the map while Freddy was previously in the same spot you were, that's when he'll attack you. So now you start to understand why the clock will eventually become a huge problem. Because every time you enter a new area, which I promise you is very often, you'll have to do a full 360 moving your light up and down to make sure Freddy isn't in the room with you. And with how slowly you turn, I promise, the experience will not be very enjoyable. Another thing to note about Freddy, he's very quiet. Typically when I talk about FNAF games, I almost always mention the sound cues the characters have. But not Freddy. Freddy has no sound cue letting you know that he's in the same area as you, at least not from what I could tell. So you'll really have to give yourself terrible motion sickness as you crank 90s in every fucking square inch of the pizzeria. Now, the objective. Each night has a different one, and Night 1's is just to find the exit of the establishment. If you know the FNAF 1 layout, you should know where to go. Go out of the hall, walk into the party room, walk to the opposite wall of where you entered, and go to the right corner of the room by the bathrooms, and there you'll find the exit door. Walk through, and notice that the exit has been boarded up. Shit. As you attempt to turn around to find a new exit, this happens. That right there, if you can't tell, is the marionette. Oh, lanky fuck. When you see the marionette in A Shadow Over Freddy's, this is how you know you've successfully completed the objective of the night and will be moving on to the next one. But not before the puppet offers to tell you a story to clear your mind. I'm not going to explain the story to you. I think it'd be much better if you just experienced it for yourself. There once was a little kid who liked to play with his toys by his lonesome. He lived with his family in a small peaceful house outside of town surrounded by forestry. The home's backyard was his personal stage, where he played with his figurines of various shapes and sizes, making plays which were acted out for his enjoyment alone. Although he was alone, he was content in living out his youth playing with the plastic friends his parents had gifted him with. They were a small mannequin, a stuffed teddy bear, a porcelain dress-up doll, and a toy robot. But one day, the family's pet dog stole one of his toys during his playtime. Into the woods, he excitedly ran away with the toy robot, prompting the kid to chase after him to reclaim his friend. Annoyed by the dog's playful attitude, the kid caught up. Grabbing the toy from the thief's mouth, he began to pull. Oh, to be young and carefree, a kid and his dog playing tug-of-war in the back garden of their house with no one to interrupt them. Seems like a wonderful memory, doesn't it? The dog, excited to receive the attention it craved from the young master of the house, refused to lose this game they found themselves playing. The toy robot was almost free from the dog's mouth when... Relieved to have gotten his friend back, the kid wiped the pool of drool off the toy robot with the bottom of his shirt. He walked back home, leaving the animal twitching helplessly on the grass, with barely enough room left in its swollen neck to let out a pitiful, dry howl. The kid, arriving back out from the trees, positioned the toy robot back where it was on his makeshift stage and continued playing. Later that afternoon, the parents had found the body of the dog. They buried it where it stood. A brief overview. A young boy liked to create plays with his toys. One day, the family dog took a toy robot that the boy used and ran into the woods. The boy chased after the dog and began to fight for the toy back before eventually breaking the dog's neck to get his toy and leaving the dog writhing on the ground while the boy left it there to die. Already setting up a pretty fucked storyline. Goddamn. Can confirm my mind is not cleared, shithead. I do want you to keep that boy from the story in mind as it's very important for the rest of the game. After each night, the marionette will tell you a story, each story a continuation of the other, so you'll be hearing a lot more about this boy. Night's 2 objective is follow the music. On this night, you're introduced to a new mechanic, and a new threat is presented to you. Leaning is the new mechanic. Before moving to a new area of the pizzeria, you can hold right-click on an area to lean in and listen closely to the sounds of said area. Since it's so dark, seeing in front of you, even with a flashlight, is quite literally impossible. So leaning is what you'll have to use to make sure you don't bump into any threats. Which leads me to my next talking point. The threat introduced in Night 2. Bonnie. Bonnie works pretty interestingly. Bonnie will patrol the perimeter of the pizzeria, meaning that if you stay towards the center and never follow a wall, Bonnie will never be an issue for you. But then of course, you also have to bring up the fact that since you can't see very well at all, when you're in the center of the party room, every single area looks exactly the same, with only small differences in the party tables to let you know your position. It will become incredibly easy to get turned around and lose your position in the mental map you've been building. But how do you deal with Bonnie, you might be asking? Well, I don't know why you're asking. You're watching a video, not a live stream, so I can't answer questions live. You're just lucky enough that I happened to predict that you'd ask that, so let me explain it to you. Unlike Freddy, Bonnie has sound cues. Just like Freddy, there's a small chance that he'll spawn in the same area of the building that you are in which case you'll have to shine your flashlight at him to make him go away. If he's in the same area as you when you attempt to leave, same thing as Freddy, he'll kill you. I will say that him appearing in the same area as you is, from what I could tell, pretty low. Instead, you should be more afraid of walking directly into him. This is where leaning comes in handy. Before moving to a new area of the pizzeria, you'll need to lean into that area and listen for Bonnie's sound cue, which just sounds like he has asthma. If you hear Bonnie in one area of the pizzeria that you were going to move into, don't, dipshit. Instead, maneuver your way around him. This, entwined with Freddy's checking, and the clock progressively getting faster and faster as the nights go on, really start to add to the stress. You enter a new area, do your full 360 checking for Freddy. No Freddy? Awesome. Let's go west. Lean and listen for about 3 seconds. Fuck. Bonnie's there. That's the direction I wanted to go. Alright, let's go north instead. Alright, since I needed to head west, I'll try to go west again. Lean and listen. God damn it. Bonnie moved north as well. Now I have to move back down, and this can repeat multiple times, and time is not on your side. Now to talk about the objective of Night 2, follow the music. It's really in place to teach you about leaning more than anything, as I failed to come up with any sort of lore implication as to why music would be playing, aside from the fact that you see the marionette at the end of each night. So when you lean into a new area, you'll most likely hear faint music playing. In most cases, there will be at least 3 areas you can always move to. You'll check each direction and listen for which way the music is the loudest. Whichever way is the loudest, that's which direction you'll go. The music leads you to 4 locations. First it leads you to the stage, then it leads you to the bathrooms, then Pirate's Cove, and finally the back room, wherein you see the marionette again, ending the night. Again, it's not a super difficult night, really just preparing you for what's to come. Before moving on to Night 3, the marionette offers to tell us another story. This story I tell you is a true story I pray you never forget. There once was a boy who laid awake at night during a harsh downpour. Beneath the covers of his bed, he closed his eyes and tried to ignore the storm just outside his room. Enveloped in darkness, a sensation of creeping discomfort kept him from falling asleep. The roars of the storm were nothing compared to the restlessness that the shadows cast from the window gave him. He felt eyes watching him from afar. The boy opened his eyes and looked towards the window, but nothing was there. He tried to go back to sleep. He opened his eyes again, and out of the corner of his eye he spotted it. The hollow, white eyes of a living shadow. It appeared just as quickly as it went away, his uneasiness pushed aside by growing curiosity. The boy got up from his bed and approached the window. From out the glass he could see it, the silhouette of an animal, darker than the night around it and void of color even when light struck its frame, running off into the trees with a familiar object stuck in its mouth. His favorite toy, stolen again, being carried towards the forest. The boy couldn't help but follow along the shadow's path. The night air was freezing, brazen winds carrying countless droplets that hit the skin like marbles, their impact deafening any other sound other than the imposing thunder. Call it premonition, but he knew where the shadow had gone to. That place at the edge of the forest where he had last left the family dog. He was sure he would find it. Standing in front of the grave once more, the eyes from the shadow had gone away. In its stead, the twice-stolen toy now lay on top of the muddy mount, but this time it was moving. Its tiny plastic arms flailing violently from side to side, its head rotating in place. The movements were sudden but clear. Unprompted by any outside influence, a spark of life was trapped inside this tiny vessel. Fascinated by such a discovery, he picked up the toy from the ground and held it tightly with both hands to prevent it from escaping his grasp. Smiling from ear to ear, the boy headed back home. Sick. So the boy saw the shadow of his dog in the window of his bedroom holding his toy again. He went out to the grave where the dog was buried and found the toy again, only to notice that it was moving on its own. So the dog possessed the toy robot. Interesting. We'll keep that in the back of our minds. Now let's move on to Night 3's objective, enter the kitchen. If it wasn't obvious, all you have to do in this night is find a way into the kitchen. But of course, as I bet you suspected, a new threat is introduced, and judging by the theme of the night, I'm betting you can guess who it is. Chica. Chica's mechanic is incredibly similar to Bonnie's. Rather than patrolling the perimeter of the building, Chica instead patrols the center. So no matter where you are in the building, you're always at a risk of bumping into an animatronic. The way you can tell if Chica is in front of you is the same as Bonnie. Just lean into the area and listen for Chica's sound cue, which you'll be able to tell is notably different from Bonnie's. There's only one other small difference between Bonnie and Chica. If you stay in one area for too long, Chica will just walk into the same area as you, and if you don't flash her before moving to another area, it's game over. Now, I have a theory. I think originally Chica was meant to be the exact same as Bonnie, except she patrols the middle of the map, but Fiznom added the moving mechanic to prevent a soft lock that can easily happen. Let me tell you about it. So, I should say that Bonnie and Chica can go anywhere in the building. It's just much more common for them to patrol their previously stated areas. And because of this, if you're in one of two specific areas, those two being the stage and Pirates Cove, you might notice something interesting. There's only two directions you can possibly move in, and there's a pretty common chance that both Bonnie and Chica will be in both of these areas that you can move to, and that you would literally be unable to move without dying, since the animatronics only move when you move. So, I believe that Chica's movement mechanic was added specifically so that if you were to get stuck in a situation like that, you could stand in place and wait for Chica to move into your area, flash her, and then move to the area that she was previously in. Doesn't sound too hard, and it isn't, but this brings up another mechanic in this game that I've failed to mention thus far. In A Shadow Over Freddy's, there's this super epic, radical, and cool mechanic where if you stay in one area for a prolonged period of time, the clock will actually begin to move faster the longer you stay in an area. So constantly moving is the best way to slow the clock down. But of course, as I just mentioned, there's a chance that Bonnie and Chica will body block you all seductive-like, licking their lips and shit, and make you wait upwards of 10 seconds for Chica to move to your area. And 10 seconds is enough to make the clock speed up dramatically. So here's a tip. Unless you absolutely have to, try to avoid going on stage and to Pirates Cove. Now for the objective, entering the kitchen. You'll notice that if you just try to go to the kitchen and open the door that you can't. However, you may also notice that a key outline has appeared at the bottom of your screen. This is to let you know that there is an item you need to pick up, in this night obviously being a key. This key is located in the break room that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. Once you make it there, you grab the key off a key rack and make your way back to the kitchen, where you can then unlock the door and go inside, where you'll find the marionette yet again, ending the night. But before we can move on to night 4, we have to listen to another story, so buckle up, grab some warm milk and a banky, and let's listen to this shit. There once was a young man who had grown hungry for knowledge. Growing into adolescence, he had isolated himself from his family, focusing instead on his passion for the unknown, the spiritual, the place of mystery he had come to know years ago. In a box under his bed, he hid his secret away from all others, his living plastic friend, still thrashing and writhing inside. Every night he observed his movements intently. The young man spent entire days away from home, reading and studying about spirits and vessels. His interest turned into obsession, and his need to understand grew. Alas, it was all for naught, as no book had the key to the answers he'd been seeking. All he found were vague rumors and legends with no instructions or explanations. Since he was a kid, the young man never saw his dad as anything more than an obstacle. He was a moody, aggressive old alcoholic who only talked to his son when he needed something to shout at. Having driven everyone that loved him away, the drunkard was worth less than nothing in the eyes of the boy. Thus, he was the perfect candidate. One day, when coming home, seeing the old man sprawled out onto the kitchen table with a bottle in hand, he decided to show dear old daddy a new way of life. Holding a small felt doll in his right hand, the teen made his way to the house's garage. After a few hours, the deed was done and the plan in action. The boy watched his oblivious father drive away in his car, unaware of the tampering that had been done to the vehicle. Sitting on his bed, the young man took his dear pet out of the box and began to press harshly on its square plastic head. As it trembled in pain, he waited on the outcome of his small experiment. Oh, the humanity. After a car accident, he recovered the doll that had been planted below the seat and returned to his home. Placing it on his desk, he watched it closely for that same spark that remained inside his robotic friend. But much to his frustration, no movement came from the doll. Nothing. The vessel he had prepared for his father was empty, devoid of even a single remnant of life. Furious by his failure, he ripped the felt doll apart and threw it aside. What a waste. From then on, he was free of the shackles of his drunken caretaker, but without the trophy he had planned to take from his monstrous act of sabotage. Unflinching in his resolve and with no guilt in his empty heart, he contemplated what to do next. He killed his dad. Holy shit. How does a child know how to cut the brakes to a car? Beyond me. But let's move on to night 4. Night 4 has the objective of find the pieces, and this is, in my opinion, the most difficult night in the whole game. But that might also be because it took me an embarrassingly long time to complete, and because of the addition of the final threat this game has to offer, Foxy. Foxy is a bitch. He's such a bitch. Let me tell you about this fuckhead. I personally never died to him, but that's because I was so paranoid about him, I made sure to keep him in complete check. Foxy, as I'm sure you could have guessed, is in Pirate's Cove. As the night goes on, you'll have to continuously go and check on him by pulling open his curtain and flashing your light at him. Thankfully, once he gets close to coming out, he plays a sound cue letting you know to get your silly ass over there and check on him. But holy shit, with how slow movement between areas is, having to check for Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica if you're on the other side of the map as Foxy as he plays his song, the spastic mad dash you have to make to the other side of the building is enough to send you into cardiac arrest, I swear to God. But for the objective, collecting the pieces. Scattered throughout the pizzeria are 5 pieces to a golden Freddy plushie. You have to move around the pizzeria and find them all, which can be pretty fucking hard. Even though they're pretty big, there were 2 I looked right at but didn't see. That's probably because the whole game is totally black and white, so making things out is obviously harder than it usually would be. You have to collect 2 legs, 2 arms, and a head. You might be wondering about the body. Don't worry, we'll get to that later. The limb locations are as follows: in the kitchen, on the stage, in the back room, and on the table next to Pirate's Cove. The head can be found in the exit area from Night 1. Thankfully, there's no specific order you have to grab them in. So, my first thought was to immediately go to the kitchen, then the exit room, then walk across the stage, and then hit the back room before quickly booking it back to Foxy to check on him and pick up the last limb, since I fully believe that is possible to do before Foxy gets out. But Foxy isn't the biggest issue in this night. No, the biggest issue in every night is Bonnie and Chica, those fuckers. Freddy, in all honesty, throughout my playthrough, barely showed up at all, which I appreciated. But Bonnie and Chica, oh my god, it's like they were fucking scheming between nights. They knew my path each time. Oh, he wants to go to the exit room? Well, let's go right in front of it and to the side of it so that he has to backtrack 2 rooms to be able to try and get to the exit from another angle. But once he backtracks a room, let's body block him so that he has to backtrack 2 more rooms. Fuck him, right? Oh no, now he spent too much time dealing with us fuckers that Foxy's about to bust all over his face. So now he's got to get to Foxy before continuing. You want to know what would be drop shit fucking hilarious? If we body blocked him every fucking room on the way there. Fucking rolling on the floor laughing ass animatronics. Fuck. So needless to say, I never got to put my perfect plan into action, and I spent most of the night going from one side of the building to the other. This is why this night is so hard. But once you've got all the pieces, we get to listen to another story. There once was a sick, twisted monster who stalked its victims from the shadows. Its heart far gone from its body, the putrid, parasitic individual lived for the hunt, to capture and corrupt the weak, all for the sake of satisfying its disgusting pleasures. Tonight was no different. Amidst the rain, this vile vampire of society spotted a young girl, left outside the entrance to a family restaurant. She looked in from a window as the other kids inside had fun and celebrated without her. The monster approached the girl from behind, its body trembling in anticipation to savor the perfect opportunity that had been laid out in front of it. Maybe, if some humanity was still lingering inside, if some shred of dignity had remained in its hollow heart, it would have felt pity for her. Maybe it could have sympathized with her situation. It stood still, inches away from her, its hands reaching out for her back, the sound of its breathing masked by the downpour surrounding them. The child felt a chill run down her spine. She saw its eyes looking at her in the reflection of the glass. She slowly turned around to face the figure towering over her. You rotten, ignorant, heartless creature. You left that innocent girl in that alley to die a cold, lonesome death. Your hands were tinted red with her blood, colorless in your empty eyes, and you felt nothing but satisfaction from taking her life. And for what? You don't remember? We all know that's not true. These meetings have been merely a formality. If it were up to me, I would have left you alone to be torn apart by your captors, limb by limb, just like you tore the life away from her that night, tossing her into the trash after capturing the fragments of her presence. But now it's time for you to feel her pain, to feel the pain that all your victims suffered. Rotten hell, William Afton, alongside the shadows of your past. That's right. If you hadn't put the pieces together already, we're playing as William Afton, and the story that's been being told is William's childhood, and what led him to becoming the man he became. I think that this reveal is fucking brilliant. I absolutely love it. I think this is something that Five Nights at Freddy's should have done. You never learn why William is the way he is. You're just meant to accept that he's a murderer, which is never the case with actual murderers. I'm aware he had a reason as to why he murdered the kids, but normal people don't murder, period. You can always go back in their past and pick up on small hints that something isn't right in their development, and in a lot of cases, harming animals is one of the earliest signs. Look at Jeffrey Dahmer, who mutilated animals in the woods to study their insides. Giving Afton this bit of story, while generally simple, provides so much more meaning behind the actions that he made in the main games, and I really hope the new FNAF game Into the Pit does something like this. I love it. But now, we get to move on to the final night of this game. No, there's no sixth night. This is it. Night 5, with the most simple objective of all. Run. This night is batshit insane. Not only is there way more static on screen, there's also finally some color, albeit only red. This night makes every animatronic the most aggressive it's ever been, aside from Foxy, who isn't active at all, but that's for good reason. Every location you move to sends you to a completely random area of the pizzeria. You'd think to run to the exit, but the moment you step out of your office, you're teleported to a totally random area. And maybe you eventually find the exit, but as you run through the doors, you realize you get teleported back onto the other side of the pizzeria. And if you thought the clock was moving quickly on previous nights, you're not ready for how quickly that shit goes down in night 5. In order to win, you have to randomly teleport through rooms for long enough that you eventually get teleported inside the bathroom, which only has one exit. Once you leave the bathroom through that one exit is when you finally get teleported back to the office and win. But holy fucking shit, I have stuff to complain about before we get that far. Let me start by completely disregarding Freddy. He might as well not even be in this game with how infrequently he appears. But holy shit, Bonnie and Chica make me want to stick my dick in a toaster, holy god. It does not matter how quick you are. I think I established the fastest possible strategy for optimally doing 360s and checking rooms that you can possibly have in this game. But it doesn't matter how fast you are. There's one enormous factor of luck that you can't overlook. Pirates Cove and the stage. Remember the Bonnie and Chica body blocking I mentioned earlier with these two areas? Yeah, those two areas are choke points of this night. And the worst part? There's nothing you can do about it because every location is randomized. There's no pattern to map out in your head because every time you teleport, the entrances and exits get randomized again. Generally speaking, you have 2 shitty teleports that you can go through, and that's considering you've run into rooms where the first area you lean into doesn't have Bonnie or Chica in it. If you've had to check 3 locations before transferring to one of the rooms you've been in, which I promise you happens very often, then you really only have 1 shitty teleport that you can fall into safely. Why? Because again, the longer you stay in one area, the faster the clock moves. If you end up getting teleported to the stage or Pirates Cove, there's a non-zero chance that Chica will take her sweet fucking time entering your area, almost guaranteeing that if you get sent to a shit area, that 1 hour is almost 100% going to pass while waiting. That's just how fucking fast the clock is on this night. If you get sent to the stage twice, you might as well just reset the game because there's no chance you'll transfer through enough rooms after that before it hits 6 a.m. Oh my fuck, then I still have to talk about the music. As you transfer through areas, you'll begin to hear music playing softly, but as you transfer through more rooms, the music gets louder and louder, making it fucking impossible to hear Bonnie, and I mean Bonnie specifically. Chica tends to be pretty fucking loud so you can figure out where she is pretty quick, but Bonnie's sound cue is so quiet most of the time that every time you end up leaning, you'll have to wait a good 3 seconds to make sure you don't hear him, and I cannot stress enough how much time 3 seconds is on this night when the clock clock moves at fucking Mach 40. So by the time it's 5 a.m., you're almost done. The music is blaring in your ears so goddamn loud you think your eardrum might fucking rupture. Your leg is bouncing so fast and your heart is pounding so hard you can feel it throughout your whole torso. And you can hear it echoing throughout your skull, making it more and more difficult to focus on listening for Bonnie's sound cue. When finally you realize you've entered the bathroom, as fast as you can, you whip around to the exit of the bathroom and you find yourself in the office. All has gone quiet. The red tint has gone away. It's calm. For once. For once, you stop shaking. You take a deep exhale that you've been holding in for the last minute, and your heart rate decreases. As you look around the room you're in, you'll realize the torso of the plushie you collected pieces to on night 4 laid on the desk in front of you. You don't know why you've been collecting the pieces. You just know that it's something that you've had to do. You grab the final piece, and then...
If you are at all familiar with my channel and how my skills are when it comes to Five Nights at Freddy's fan games, then you'd know that I'm incredibly bad at playing these games. Some may even call it a skill issue. I'm not sure what's wrong with me, but when it comes to being able to focus and complete high nerve control tasks like FNAF games, I tend to just completely drop the ball harder than my actual balls dropped. But today, I've managed to find a well-known FNAF fan game that I was actually able to 100% complete. After doing so, I was so incredibly proud of myself, I knew I had to make a video talking all about it. Typically, when it comes to FNAF games that I make videos about, I play through as much of them as I can, and when I find a night that I tend to struggle on, I'll pour at least an hour of attempts into it, whereafter, if I continue to fail, I will switch to watching someone else play the game and continue to take notes for the script. This game, however, was not like that, and the game in question is Baby's Nightmare Circus. So buckle up and get ready for me to glaze myself, because this is one of the few times in my life where I'm allowed to be happy with myself. Let's dive together into the world of Baby's Nightmare Circus. Baby's Nightmare Circus opens to a black screen and a cutscene. Someone is talking to us, but we're not yet sure who it is. We know we're trapped somewhere, and this voice says that they can help us get out. But first we have to beat the game. Afterwards, we get thrown into the menu and click play. This is already where I want to stop and make a comment. After pressing play, rather than just throwing you into a night like a normal FNAF game does, this game brings you to a separate screen where you're able to see how many nights the game has in store for you, and as you beat the nights, others will unlock, sort of allowing you to pick a path when it comes to nights. It's very loose, but I'll talk more about it as it opens up. The first night of the game is a tutorial night, something I don't really see other games doing. In this tutorial night, it is impossible to lose as there are no enemies that are actually active. In this night, you're free to roam around the circus, and as you enter tents, the game will tell you who will appear on them and how to deal with them. After you've visited every tent, you'll be able to exit the night. But before we do that, I think this would be a perfect time to go over all of the animatronics that this tutorial mentions. It only seems fitting. I'm going to be splitting up the circus into two halves for this section, the front and the back. The front will refer to the direction you face by default as you enter the game, this side, and the back as the side you have to turn to, this side. Let's start with the main attraction, shall we? Nightmare Baby.
Hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
Nightmare Baby resides in the left tent on the front side of the circus. Throughout the night, she will attempt to escape the tent and rip you wide open. Now, while that may sound enticing, you need to remember that her name is Circus Baby, and that you're not into minors because you're a normal person. Get it together. There's another character you can goon over in this game that I'll cover in a minute. Keep it in your pants. In order to prevent your splitting in half, you'll need to occasionally check on Nightmare Baby's tent and flash your light to see where she's at. In this tent, she has 4 possible states. The first state will have you see nothing when you flash your light. The second state will have her duck behind that thing. I think it's a stage. I'm not sure. The third state will have her duck behind a curtain, and you'll notice she's a bit close to you then, and a little bit more than you'd care for. And the fourth and final state is where she's all up in your face, breathing really hard and causing you to catch whiffs of the most rancid breath you've ever smelled. When you see Baby quite literally 3 inches away from your face, all you need to do is quickly run out of the tent. I personally like to run back into the tent and make sure she actually left. I don't know if you need to do this, I just know that one time I didn't and I died. You might be thinking, wow, that's really easy. What's the catch? Well, you want to know the best part? There isn't one. Yeah, you're soon gonna see why I was able to actually complete this FNAF game. Staying on the front side of the circus, we enter the right side tent to find the 3 Biddy Babs. What do these guys do? Throughout the night, they will assemble like the Avengers and occasionally cause your flashlight to flicker. How on earth are they doing that to your flashlight even when you're several hundred yards away from them? How about don't fucking question it, dweeb? How about that, huh? When you notice your lights start to flicker, you will need to quickly make your way over to their tent and flash your light at them until they behave and stop. But what else do they do? Nothing. That's it. You literally never have to check on them unless your light is flickering. This game is buttfuck easy. If you're bad at these types of games but still want to play one and feel talented, Baby's Nightmare Circus is for you. Once you understand how every character works, which isn't hard, losing will become impossible. Turning around to the back of the circus, starting with the right tent, we have a very interesting character. That character being absolutely fucking nobody, because there's no animatronic in here. Instead, it's just a music box system which powers Bellora's song. She dances to it throughout the night, so we have to make sure we keep it wound up. Speaking of Bellora, heading over to the left tent is where she is. This tall glass of water looking ass will spin around in a circle on her stage. All you have to do is watch her. Literally. This is perfect for you freaks. You get paid to goon. And no, I'm not kidding. That's literally all you have to do. You'll see on the bottom of your screen a meter. It will fill up the longer you look at her and will decrease if you're not looking at her. And with Bellora out of the way, that's literally all of the characters and all of the threats in the game. I'm not joking. What? Huh? What's that? Does your flashlight at least have a power system to prevent you from easily cheesing everything ever? Oh, no. No, it doesn't. That would be too difficult. How does this game sound, guys? You might be wondering why I'm even covering it if there isn't a mechanic that's mildly annoying for me to point at and say, this motherfuck fucking sucks, fuck shit, fuck ass shit, fuck bitch. Well, I promise that there's something interesting about this game. And if you can stick it out with me to the end, you'll see what I'm talking about. As I stated previously, there are multiple different nights, but calling them levels and minigames makes much more sense. The three main levels are called the easy way, the medium way, and the hard way. That last one being a reference to my nards. All three are pretty boring and are just a slightly more difficult version of the last. You may find yourself getting a little stuck on the medium way, however, and to counter that, let me tell you the god strategy that will make completing these nights 100% possible every single time. Okay, so the night starts. Here's what you're gonna do. Immediately turn around and go check on Ballora until her meter is full. Then go over to the music box and yank on its crank. Next, you'll go back over to Ballora and fill her up again. Pause. And finally, you'll turn around and check Baby's location. If at any point you see the lights flicker, stop what you're doing and flash the Biddy Babs, and check on Baby again before you turn around to go goon to Ballora. Repeat this pattern and congratulations, you've mastered Baby's Nightmare Circus. There's quite literally nothing more you need to do. Something you will notice incredibly quickly while playing this game is that most, if not all, characters are dealt with by looking at them. Which, by the way, is the exact same mechanic as another disgusting FNAF game I'll be covering in the near future. Want to know one more super cool thing about the main gameplay loop here? No? Well, too bad. I'm going to tell you anyway. I personally have never had the Biddy Babs attack more than twice in a night. And usually they only ever attacked once, and that was right at the start of the night. I'm not sure if this is a bug or if they seriously were meant to rarely attack, but goddamn is this game easy. But let's take a short break from the main gameplay loop to talk about the three minigames in this game: Mini Arena Rules, Bonbon Rules, and Bonnet Rules. Let's start with Mini Arena Rules, as it will be the first one you're able to access. Mini Arena Rules consists of 3 tents. This minigame is pretty similar to the plush trap minigame from FNAF 4 in a way. Mini Arena can appear at any of the 3 tents, and you will have to perform a different action depending on which one she's at. I'm gonna give you a small spoiler here and say that every single minigame is exactly the same. The only difference between them is which tents have which actions, and which character is trying to kill you in each game. I don't need to go over each game and waste your time, so I'll quickly go over the 3 actions. For one of the tents, you have to just hold your flashlight on them. The second tent requires you to flash them with your flashlight several times. And the third tent has you scratch your ass and not even bother turning your flashlight on. No, I'm not joking. It's really that easy. How do you know when they're there? Well, you can't just flash your light anytime you want because they will kill the fuck out of you. But lucky for us, the characters will always make a very noticeable sound cue when they've entered a tent. When you hear that, you just turn your light on to see which tent they're at and then respond accordingly. At the beginning of the minigame, the game will tell you which tent corresponds to which action. So whoopity-doo, these minigames are really just time wasters. Let's talk about the next interesting night called Fun Times. Oh boy, I wonder what interesting and unique mechanics will appear on this night. Fucking nothing! It's the same mechanics as the last 3 nights, just with different characters. Instead of Nightmare Baby, you have Nightmare Funtime Freddy. Ballora is replaced with Nightmare Funtime Foxy, and the Biddy Babs are replaced with nothing because it's just the Biddy Babs again.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Could have at least swapped them out with Electro Babs. That way, them being able to mess with your flashlight would actually make a little bit of sense, but no, whatever, that's fine. How about difficulty? Is this night any harder? No. No, it isn't. You can beat this night just as easily as the previous nights using the God strategy I mentioned earlier. Well, it looks like there's one more night. What could it be? Fun Times 2. Well, okay, is there anything different about— Why are you even fucking asking a stupid ass question like that? Have you not been watching the video? No, there's nothing different about it. I was prepared for this night to be significantly harder than the last, but it wasn't, not even a little bit. There are so many conceivable ways to fix this game and make it a little bit more interesting. The first thing I can think of is giving the flashlight power. That would make this game worlds harder. And to be clear, I don't believe difficulty is what makes a game good, but this game is so easy, you seriously don't even have to focus on it. While I was playing this game, most of the time I was telling random stories or ranting about something random, which you can hear if you watch my playthrough series over on Dexter Black. Go subscribe, by the way. It's miles behind this channel in subscribers, and I think that's really sad. If you like this channel, then you'll like that one too. But now I promise something a little different is going to happen in this game. We've unlocked a level called N-Night. If you couldn't figure out what that means, it's just a night with Ennard in it. How does it play? Well, I've got good news and bad news. The good news is it's not the same setup as the previous levels, so you can't just use the God strategy. However, the bad news is this is arguably the easiest level in the entire game. No joke, it's easy as fuck. Let me explain it to you. So, Ennard will appear at random in any of the 4 tents. When he goes to one, he will make a sound to hint at which tent he entered. If he's in Bellora's tent, you'll be able to hear faint music. If he's in the music box tent, you'll be able to hear the crank. If he's in the Biddy Bab's tent, your flashlight will start to flicker, and if he's in Baby's tent, you'll hear him grunting, I think? I don't really know what that sound is that he's making in there. Once you know which tent he's in, you'll have to quickly go to said tent and rapidly flash your flashlight at him until he goes away. That's it. Nothing else. No Biddy Babs, no Bellora, no music box, no baby, just Ennard moving around. To give him some credit, he moves around pretty quickly, so you'll be running around a lot, but by no means is this level hard in the slightest. But something else interesting about this night is the reward you get for beating it. Rewards are something I've neglected to mention thus far, and that's because they're not really important at all, until now. To quickly go over everything, beating the easy way gives you a gold coin, beating the medium way gives you a silver coin, not sure why you get a worse coin for beating a more difficult night, but fuck it, right? Beating the hard way gives you a golden baby head, don't get any fucked up ideas, you freaks. Fun Times gives you a golden Freddy head, Fun Times Round 2 gives you a fun time portrait of Foxy and Freddy about to make out, Mini Arena Rules gives you a golden Nightmare Arena, again, no funny ideas. Bon Bon Rules gives you a Bon Bon doll, which is adorable. Bonnet Rules gives you a golden bonnet head, and as I already mentioned, N-Night gives you a mysterious key. This key will be important, but I'll get more into it later when it becomes more relevant. The final level that unlocks after beating N-Night is Baby Geist Attacks. That sounds really fun and difficult. I can't wait to hear about it. I hear you saying, well, shut the fuck up because it's not hard and I wouldn't exactly call it fun either. Baby Geist Attacks is pretty much just a reskinned N-Night with a few differences. The biggest being that Baby Geist doesn't make noise to tell you which tent she's entered. That sounds scary, but all you need to do is spin around in a circle and check every tent one by one. You probably won't lose if you do this, and if you do lose, it's just sheer luck. The only other change is that the flashlight doesn't beat her. Instead, on this night, you're given a taser to administer a controlled shock. This taser has a cooldown, so don't use it unless you see Baby Geist. When you find her, all you have to do is use the taser, and she'll move to another tent. Do this until 6 AM, and congrats, you've beaten the game. After completing Baby Geist Attacks, another cutscene plays. The voice from the beginning of the game reveals itself to be a balloon boy-looking son of a bitch named Biddy. He congratulates us on removing Baby Geist from the game, but says that it will always come back. Crazy because I didn't see William Afton anywhere, so you're really just stealing his line, but I suppose I'll let it slide. The prize for beating this level is Baby Geist's endoskeleton, and this is also where you learn that this game has multiple endings, with the game displaying that we've unlocked the Baby Geist ending, getting a star on the title screen. Alright boys, time to go hunting. The next ending involves that key that we got from N-Night. After obtaining it, if you go back to N-Night and head over to the music box tent, you'll be able to see a chest with a keyhole in it. You can use the key on the chest to unlock it, which stops the night and causes a cutscene to play. Biddy tells us we can open the chest, but it's useless and won't help with our sanity. The contents of the chest are just a mutilated Foxy plush that doesn't do anything. I'm sure it has some form of symbolism, but from what I've read, nobody knows what that would be. The final ending I have to talk about is called the Broken Ending, and getting it is a bit more interesting than the other two. Every time you die, there's a chance of you getting an item called What Is This? Trust me, getting this item isn't the easiest, since dying in this game is pretty hard if you couldn't tell. When you interact with this item in the prize corner, it will tell you that you can break the game by finding a red line and holding the keys on your keyboard to the letters in the name Biddy. By entering any of the normal levels and turning around, you'll be able to see a faint red line in the sky. If you hold down those letters and click the line, the game will freak the fuck out, and an 8-bit minigame will begin. You'll see an 8-bit version of Biddy on your screen, and clicking him will cause him to melt, and several more will appear on screen afterwards. After committing Biddy genocide, the Destroy Him minigame will begin. Biddy will start spinning in a circle, and you'll have to click him multiple times, with him becoming faster and faster the more you click him. After beating him, a distorted version of his face will appear, and the player will notice they're stuck inside their own broken mind. By the way, if you want a quick lore dump, the player in the game got stuck inside of his own game and he's trying to get out. Pretty simple. And with that, that's all Baby's Nightmare Circus has to offer. There's actually one pretty large segment I neglected to mention, that being Classic Mode. After beating Baby Geist attacks, you'll be able to unlock Classic Mode, one last chance for the developer to escape the game. Classic Mode looks similar to a normal FNAF game, and the first night would have you think that it is. Night 1 plays normal. With characters coming to your doors, you can check cameras and close the doors whenever they get too close. It's not too hard because it's only Night 1, and upon trying to enter Night 2, Biddy shows himself. He says he doesn't want these last 5 nights to be a boring FNAF game. He says he's going to remove the doors. Fun fact about Night 1, it's actually impossible to lose. Even if you close the doors the entire night, the power drops at a constant rate. Night 1 is completely scripted, so losing can't happen. Just something fun to note. And beating Night 1 will give you some gold coins. Night 2 starts in a backstage-like area where you have to go back and forth staring at different animatronics, with Freddy getting a bit too close at times. After doing this for a bit, you'll get jump scared by Biddy, and then Night 2 actually begins. At this point, you'll be placed in a vent with Funtime Foxy as your main threat. You'll have to slowly crawl forward and listen for Foxy crawling around. When you hear him, you need to stop moving. Once his banging stops, you can keep moving. Incredibly easy, but something cool is that halfway through you'll be able to see Foxy's eye. Just a nice little touch that I thought was pretty sick. After beating Night 2, you'll be given a Funtime Foxy doll, which is just adorable. Night 3 is my favorite of the 5 nights in Classic Mode. You're placed in front of a shelf, and you'll have to make sure that several Biddy Babs don't see you. You'll be able to see their eyes peering at you, and you'll have to move different objects on the shelf in order to block their vision of you until the night ends. It's not hard by any means, but I just thought this night was really fun. Beating Night 3 will give you a Golden Nightmare Biddy Bab statue. Night 4 is unironically the hardest moment in this entire game, but not for the reason you'd think. It starts with you in an office similar to FNAF 6. After turning on the computer, you'll be greeted with 3 buttons: a camera button, a ventilation button, and a let's play button. On the cameras, you'll be able to see Ennard and Baby Geist moving around. The cameras are useless, by the way, and serve no purpose as they're not actually moving around any map. The ventilation is what really matters. Throughout the night, it will decrease, and you'll have to constantly check it and keep winding it up. I don't know why the ventilation is like a music box, but just don't think about it, I guess. The Let's Play button is what is actually important. The minigame here is just Pong, but you control both paddles. Every time the ball hits a paddle, you'll get a point. After you reach 40 points, you'll be redirected to a new minigame. And this new minigame is the reason this night is the hardest. This new minigame is similar to a bullet hell, where you have to move your player up and down to avoid obstacles approaching you. It starts off pretty easy, with several Balloras dancing towards you. After a bit, they start to rotate, definitely a little more challenging, but still nothing hard. Then, out of fucking nowhere, the screen starts to shift up. And this is why this night is so hard. This section is so disorienting, because not only do the Balloras scroll, your player scrolls as well. And right when it happens, you'll be holding up to avoid a Ballora. But then the screen will start pushing you up as you're holding up, causing you to move right into Ballora's ass, which isn't unappealing, but I'm trying to beat the game right now, not beat my meat. This minigame isn't literally super hard, but it's mildly frustrating enough for me to feel the need to mention it. I did not have a lot of fun with this section, and you can see my salt over on the Dexter Black channel. After the fuckhead Balloras, you'll have a few lol bits to dodge, and after that, you're home free, and you will get an old TV as a reward. Night 5 begins with Biddy telling you there's actually no way to escape and that he's been lying to us this whole time. we get so pissed we actually start punching the fuck out of him, which I think is hilarious and totally deserved. After a large enough beating, he transforms into Nightmare Biddy, and we learn that the final night is a battle against him. Can you guess how you beat him? If you said your flashlight, you'd be unsurprisingly correct. You'll be placed back into the office you saw on night 1, but with no cameras and no doors. To be fair, he did say he was gonna get rid of your doors, so I guess he's not a complete liar. Your goal on this night is to deplete his power using a panel in your office. When you press the deplete button, it will very slowly drain Biddy's power. He'll be attacking you the whole time. You'll be able to hear him making noise in one of your ears, which is a level of ASMR I was never ready for. I see. What the fuck is he saying? Goes on crack. When you hear him on a side of your room, you'll have to peek out of the door on that side and flash him with your flashlight to keep him away. Do this until the power is depleted, and congrats, you've beaten Biddy. You're given a book with his face on it, and the game seemingly comes to a close. But judging by the word seemingly, I'm sure you know we're not done yet. Going to the prize corner, you can actually look inside the book and see every character you've gone up against in classic mode, with the exception of one grayed out silhouette we haven't seen before. Clicking on that page throws you into one final boss fight with Mr. Afton. Oh shit, I guess he does always come back. This fight, while unique, also isn't hard like the rest of the game. In this fight, you'll be back in the office again. This time, you'll have your doors and your cameras, which are actually useful this time around. If you ever see Afton in one of your hallways, you'll have to quickly, and I do mean quickly, close the doors until he leaves. This is the only difficult part of this boss fight. The speed you have to have, it isn't anything crazy like some other FNAF games, but for this game, it's incredibly noticeable. The only other place Afton can be seen is in your vents. If you see him there, you'll just have to stare at him on the cameras until he leaves. That can get scary because of your power situation, but I've got a small theory about that. I don't think your power can run out. I honestly believe that your power decreases at a constant rate like it does in night 1. I never lost due to running out of power, so that's something I can't confirm. But let me know your guys' experience with it in the comments. After beating Mr. Afton, the game pretty much is over. We have 3 more prizes to collect though, and these can be collected in 2 hidden minigames. The final prize you get from unlocking all the prizes. The first minigame can be found on night 2. Instead of moving forward in the vents, you can hold S to move backwards. Once you move your character off screen, you'll be thrown into a minigame where all you have to do is walk forward and collect a plushie. That plushie being the prize that gets added to the prize corner. But before collecting it, you'll notice a shelf that looks oddly familiar. It's the same shelf that's on night 3. You'll need to take note of the order that the objects are placed on this shelf. On night 3, while defending yourself from the Biddy Babs, you'll have to arrange the different items on the shelf in the same order you saw them in the minigame. I recommend just taking a picture of it like I did. After doing so, you'll be thrown into another minigame where you also just walk around and grab a plushie. After doing so, you'll unlock the final prize, which is just a picture of multiple locations you've seen throughout the game. And with that, you've officially 100%ed Baby's Nightmare Circus, and that's all the game has to offer. And with that, that's all I have to offer about the game as well. I loved playing this game. Yes, it's not hard or particularly interesting, but I think of it as a casual FNAF experience and a fandom full of some of the most challenging experiences you'll ever take part in, and I can appreciate that. If you have the thought in your head that the creator of this game isn't very good at making FNAF games, I want you to get that thought out of your head right now. This guy knows what he's doing. In case you were interested, the guy that made Baby's Nightmare Circus also created one of the best Five Nights at Freddy's games of all time, Tyke & Sons Lumber Co. That game is literally some of the coolest shit I've ever seen in my life, and if you want to see me cover it, let me know in the comments. Mixlass is a very talented creator and is capable of creating challenging gameplay. Hell, the hardest challenge in Tyke & Sons Lumber Co. is number 48 on the FNAF Max Mode list, which is nothing to scoff at. Well, let me know what you think. Do you like the overall simplicity of Baby's Nightmare Circus? Let me know in the comments. The question for my Garten of Banban 0 video was, are you excited for Garten of Banban 8 and why? My favorite answer was none of them because nobody answered the fucking question. Thanks guys, maybe you'll answer this one. The question of this video is, who is your favorite FNAF fan game developer and why? With the question of the video being asked, I've been Dexter, and I'll see you all in the next video. See ya!